Welcome to this formal meeting of the Children and Culture Scrutiny Committee. My name is Councillor Brenda Collier and I am the chairman of this committee. Also in attendance is my Vice Chair, Councillor Maria Hume. I would like to warmly welcome our new members, Councillors Jackie Brockway, welcome, Neil Carey and Richard Davies, welcome. And I hope you enjoy your time with us on this committee. We're quite friendly, we don't bite too often. I'd like to begin with a health and safety announcement. There is no fire drill planned this morning. In the event of the fire alarm sounding, we need to leave the council chambers through the rear doors at the back of the chamber and leave the building through the reception area into the front car park and wait there for further instructions, please. This meeting is being streamed live via the County Council's website, and all your comments will remain accessible online after the meeting and can be reported by the media. With this in mind, I would like to welcome members of the public and press watching our meeting today. Can I remind everyone, though, to ensure their mobiles, laptops and tablets are on silent for the duration of this meeting. The hearing loop is now activated. If you wish to speak, can you please raise your hand and the Vice Chairman will make a note and hopefully will get taken in turn. Thank you very much. Jess, do we have any apologies, please?
Thank you, Chairman. We've received apologies from Councillor Cleaver and we have Councillor Overton replacing him. Dr Emile van der Zee. We also have apologies from Joe Kavanagh, the Assistant Director for Early Help, and Will Mason, the Head of Culture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do any members wish to declare an interest at all, please? Councillor Brockway.
Thank you, Chairman. I have to declare personal interest in paper 7 because 2 of my grandchildren are service users. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, item 3 then, minutes of the previous meeting of the Children and Culture Scrutiny Committee held on the 24th of April 2026. This is to confirm and sign the minutes from the meeting, from the last meeting of the committee on 24th of April 2026. These can be found on pages 5 to 16 of the agenda pack. The minutes are not for debate, but to agree that they are a correct and accurate record of the previous meeting. If you have any questions on the content of the meetings, please contact officers outside the meeting. Do I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Robinson. And a seconder? Councillor Brooks, thank you. We will now vote. Those in favour, please show. Okay, I think that's passed, Jess. Thank you very much. They're agreed upon as a correct record. Thank you. Item 4, announcements by the Chairman, Executive Councillors and Lead Officers. Just to make the committee aware, I'm proposing to hold a 10-minute comfort break before item 8 today. We will see how the time goes on that, so if we look like we've got lots and lots of questions, I might call that a little bit earlier, but be assured we will be having a comfort break. Moving on. Are there any announcements from Councillor Natalie Oliver, please? The Executive Council of Children's Services. No, thank you. And finally, are there any announcements from Heather Sandy, Executive Director of Children's Services and Deputy Chief Executive? Nicole, have we got any announcements from our Executive Director, Communities and Deputy Director? Thank you, Nicole. Item 5. It's the Lincoln's Best Start in Life strategy and local plan. This item can be found in the supplementary agenda pack sent out on Tuesday and is for pre-decision scrutiny. The committee has been consulted on Lincolnshire's Best Start in Life strategy and local plan, conception to reception. The report is due for consideration by the Executive Council for Children's Services between the 26th of June and the 3rd of July 2026, and all comments from the committee will be reported to the Executive Councillor prior to her decision. The actions required by the committee are to consider the attached report and to acknowledge the report's recommendations to the Executive Councillor for Children's Services as set out in the report. The report will be presented by Nikki Myers, Head of Service, Early Years and Childcare Support, Family Hubs and Holiday Activities and Food Programme. We also have in attendance Vicky Thomas, Principal Advisor, Early Education, and Carly Cassie, Team Manager for Quality and Assurance, Lincolnshire's Best Start Family Hub and Children's Centre Network. Over to you, Nikki, please. Thank you.
Councillor Curry, can I just come in before Nikki starts and just apologise that the paper came out a little later. That was an error on my behalf. It had all been signed off, but we'd put it on the wrong template, and luckily Democratic Services picked that up for us, so it had to be transferred, and I apologise that members had a little bit less time to read it, and appreciate you bearing with us on that. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that, Heather. Thank you. Over to you, Nikki. Thank you.
Is it on? Yeah, thank you, Heather, and my apologies too. So today I'm presenting Lincolnshire's Best Start in Life Strategy and Local Plan, which runs from 2026 to 2031. And it sets out how we will improve outcomes for children from pregnancy through to starting school. We've got some printed and you should all have a copy. I thought it'd be good and helpful for you to have a look at that. Lincolnshire has been a national trailblazer for family hubs, and we have been in receipt of funding for the last 4 years. And this funding will continue for a further 3 years, and the government has announced the rollout of Best Start family hubs to all local authorities in the country from April of this year. In Lincolnshire, we have a strong network of 47 children's centres and Best Start family hubs across the county, delivering joined-up support to families in their local communities. We know that Sure Start work, particularly for those children living in disadvantaged areas, and this made a difference to their health and educational outcomes, and Best Start family hub seeks to build on this evidence base. The challenge we are addressing is clear. Currently, 66.4% of children in Lincolnshire reach a good level of development at the age of 5. But for children from disadvantaged backgrounds, the figure drops to 50% of those in receipt of free school meals. We know the gap emerges early and continues through life, so our focus is on early intervention and targeted support. The good level of development is the main measure of how ready a child is for school at the age of 5. It is assessed at the end of reception using early years foundation stage. A child achieves a good level of development, often called GLD, if they meet the expected level across key areas, which includes communication and language, physical development, personal, social and emotional development, and literacy and maths. In simple terms, GLD tells us whether a child has the skills and confidence they need to start school and learn successfully. The government has set some clear targets to all local authorities across the country. Our ambition and aspirations for our children in Lincolnshire is to increase school readiness by 2028 with clear targets to raise overall good level of development to 76.7%, improved access to early education and childcare, a strong focus on quality and early identification of need. Importantly, this is a data-led approach, so we've been working with our performance team to look at children that didn't achieve a good level of development over the past 2 years and a risk of poorer outcomes. And we've come up with 4 main priority groups. And this is children without a completed age and stages questionnaire, known as an ASQ3. And this forms part of the development checks completed at 2.5 review with our Children's Health Service. Missing developmental checks means missed opportunities for that early identification. So this is one of the areas we will target. Males, boys are significantly less likely to achieve a good level of development compared to our girls. And that's particularly within the language and communication gap being a key driver. And children with low reception attendance, poor attendance limits access to high quality early education. And while it's not statutory for a child to go to a setting or to go to a reception class, we will be looking at that and targeting attendance. And summer-born children, so younger children, often start school less ready, with summer-born boys particularly falling behind. This allows us to target our resource where it will have the greatest impact. This plan is supported by 10.6 million of investment over the next 3 years, enabling us to expand services, strengthen prevention and deliver system-wide change. Some of the key developments that we will do with that additional money is 4 new family hubs designated within the Lincoln area, because they're showing that they need an enhancement of some of our services. Expanding speech and language support, which is absolutely key to supporting some of our children. Stronger transitions into nursery and reception. Improved perinatal mental health pathways, and an 18-month-old health visitor check pilot, because then we can get to looking at that early identification, particularly around speech and language, quicker. Increased specialist health visiting capacity and enhanced infant feeding support. In summary, this strategy is our roadmap to reducing inequalities, improving our school readiness, and giving more children in Lincolnshire the best possible start in life and puts them on the right pathways that is needed. So thank you. That's a whistle-stop tour of our strategy there and our ambitions, and I'll open that for questions.
Thank you very much, Nikki. Thank you. Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you, Chair. Love the strategy, the book. Thank you very much for that. Absolutely fantastic. It really gives me something to look at, and I think a lot of parents will love this, to be fair, because we do love looking at pictures. I've got 3 children myself, older now, obviously. So I have been through all these stages. My question is regarding the target of 61.2% free school meals. It's up from 50% to 61. Do you think that target's a little bit too low? Because it says in the book here, 61.2% of children are eligible for free school meals, reaching a good level of development. Now, my concern is, I know one of my local schools has just changed the food onto healthy eating food, and I know a lot of the children aren't eating that food and they're being left on the shelves. What are we doing to ensure that the food we're getting is going to be what they want to eat? Because if they don't eat, they're not learning. As simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the comments about the strategy as well. I think we're currently at 50% of free school eligible meal children achieving a good level of development. That 61.2% is set by the government. So the government has given us separate targets for the overall good level of development and for free school meals. It is an ambitious target, but I think that it is achievable. I think that those children living in disadvantages where we are going to be targeting our support through our resources. Children begin really early. We've got a high level of children now going into settings, and children begin really early to sit down and socialise and have those school meals with the setting meals and school meals with their peers. So hopefully that they will continue that as they go into reception in school around the food. And they do, when Ofsted come in, they do look at what food is being served to children, particularly in settings that I'm aware of. And again, we have a wide variety of tastes and things for children in their early years. So hopefully that will continue, because sometimes it's about children having those different tastes for food.
Thank you, Chair. So do we have any say in what food can be presented, or have we just got to go with what's been given? That's what I need to know, because I was brought up on sausage rolls and beans at my school. Fantastic.
I think Heather would like to come in here
So
to help us out.
Thank
you, Councillor Brooks. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Brooks. So we have a food, I knew I was going to get that wrong, a food education team who work with schools and settings to support them. There is really clear guidance about what schools can and can't serve in schools, and that really looks at the nutrition content of the food. And we work with schools around that and around ensuring they've got healthy menus that are tempting to children, shall we say. And I think schools work really hard to move that further forward. Thank you.
I was visiting a school this week, and they're going to get a little vegetable garden going, which I think is brilliant, so the children can see where it comes from, not just a supermarket, and hopefully they'll be more tempted to eat. Thank you. Councillor Councillor Davies, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got 5 questions. Would you like me to do them individually or as a block?
Yes, please. Can you do 2, and then we'll come back to you to give everybody else a chance?
Of course.
That's brilliant. If you could do them individually, so the answers can come back to you as well. Clear.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Can I just start by saying this is an incredible report. I'm always nervous when reports are arriving late. You think, oh, okay, let's look, what are we going to see here? The reality is, this is brilliant. I think the 3 things I would mention in particular is A, the work you've done on the pilot is incredible. To reduce that waiting time, I think almost needs to be a much bigger font in the report, because that makes a difference. As Councillor Brooks has alluded to, it's a real impactful. I think the dashboard is brilliant in terms of ongoing reporting, and I think the fact that you've recognised rightly that rurality is a crisis point for Lincolnshire is telling, because so many, even of reports we generate, don't recognise that. So I'd pay tribute to the hard work that's clearly gone into it. There's a lot of detail and there's lots of facts and numbers, which I really appreciate. My first question then, through you, the report, you talk about it being an investor-safe programme quite extensively, and I get the ethos of that. I just wonder if you've got an ambition or some targets about what does good look like in terms of EHCP requests, send expenditure. Have you got an ambition for what that saving looks like? That's my first question.
Okay, to come back to you on that, we've already made quite a lot of progress in terms of early years children request to assess to get on the journey of SEND. So we've reduced that by 76 children this year, which if they were at the higher end of need, that's £1 million. So we're already looking at that and we're already starting to achieve that already. Sorry, can you just repeat that question?
I mean, that's really what I was aiming at, just some numbers around where do you think you will get to?
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to go with your second question,
My second
please?
question, thank you. You've identified 4 locations in the Lincoln area. I just wondered if you could provide us more information about what was the driving force behind those particular locations. Obviously conscious they're probably all in quite a close geographic area.
They are in close geographical area. They are the areas that are designated children's centres at the moment. But what we've done is we've done an assessment of need of those areas, and they need some enhancement in support. So the enhancements that we are currently delivering through our 10 family hubs, particularly around speech and language. So we've looked at the schools and the GLD scores. We've looked at the quality of the settings. So our aim is to designate 4 centres which are in the Bracebridge, Abbey, Central and Moorland area to work with those communities to make sure that our speech and language particularly reaches out to the settings and the reception classes around there as well. The pilot for 18-month-old review assessment checks will be delivered in Lincoln as well. So we're really having a concentrated look at the city of Lincoln because that's where it's really showing that we need that support, that enhancement of that support, particularly around for boys as well, for that communication and language, which they drop behind at GLD. So we're really having that look. We want children to be able to have all these experiences and the needs met rather than them it being unmet. So we're really looking at that early intervention through these specialist resources that we've got so that they are on the right trajectory and it doesn't end up being a behaviour need and a SEND need. So that's where we're concentrating our efforts, and particularly in those areas to balance up them inequalities in those disadvantaged areas.
Thank you very much. Could I just ask what was the criteria for those particular areas you're looking at, please?
The criteria is around the good level of... It's gone off again, sorry, I didn't touch it. So the good level of development in the reception, so where schools are proving to be falling behind. The ones that really hit our 4 priority areas as deemed by the work we've done with our performance, so it's evidence-based. So it's a lot of looking at that. And the areas that are in the most disadvantaged areas as well in Lincolnshire. So we've got a real concentration of that within Lincoln, particularly in the Moorland area. So that's where we're working. We want to concentrate our resource and really target that resource to make that difference.
I just wondered, because my area, Birchwood, is deemed as a deprived area. I just wondered why that wasn't included in that.
Yeah, Birchwood is already a designated family hub, and it absolutely is, Councillor Collier, an absolute priority to us. It was deemed one of the first along 4 years ago with all the 10 family hubs. So we designated 10 family hubs with the 4 years of funding, and then now we've got a further 3 years and we're designating 4 more. We've also got support across the county though, because we have a strong hub and network of 47 children's centres plus those families hubs, you see. So we do concentrate on all those areas.
Thank you, Nikki, thank you. I think, Heather, did you want to come back in there?
Nikki, microphones are turning us off today. So I was just going to clarify, these are new, so the content that we're delivering through our family hubs that are already designated family hubs is included, but these are 4 new locations. And I think Nikki's point about the wider network of children's centres through which we do the delivery is really important. We've got really good coverage across the whole of Lincolnshire, and that links back to the comments we've had around rurality. It links back to the need to reach out to the coast. So whilst these current 4 new ones are in Lincoln and in the city, our other spread is across Lincolnshire, and then our children's centre spread is even wider. This is just as we grow the programme, we'll be adding at the areas that the data is telling us would benefit most.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Brockway, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Excuse me, my voice, please. This is a wonderful report. Thank you so much for all this hard work. It's just so easy to read as well. And it's not just the content of the report. The presentation is important, and I think that works very well here. I have a question, please, on page 8 of the narrative before the report. And you talk a bullet point at the top, expansion of speech, language and communications needs support. I'm absolutely delighted that you're looking at all these things very early, because the earlier the better. I just wonder, though, about the sustaining of this support. So when you identify, say, a child who needs speech and language support, you go in, you intervene. But in order to improve speech and language, you've got to go in frequently. You need to be there every week or more frequently. So how are you actually going to sustain the support that you identify and keep it going so that there's progress? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brockway. Thank you for the comments about the strategy. So the speech and language was a pilot for the first 4 years, so we've took our learning from the speech and language pilot. We are now going to expand that, and that will reach out, the speech and language pilot will reach out across the family hubs, the setting and the reception class. And so again, if a child needs a package of support rather than a drop-in and a one-off support, then we have built that into the programme. So that's been in development because we didn't want any gaps for those children that needed that longer support. The pilot as well, the preschool speech and language offer has changed as a result of that pilot. And so there is a real reduction in waiting lists for children now, because it's changed that speech and language, how they look at what they're going to deliver through that through their service. So the preschool offer for children has also changed. So we've had a lot of progress and a lot of outcomes with that. But I take on board that point. There are children that need that longer package of support, and we've written that into the programme, and they will get that. There won't be any gaps there.
Your mics are playing up this morning. Councillor Robinson, please.
Playing up with me as well. I've got sort of 4 questions, but they're sort of both 2 are paired. So is that okay to ask?
My mic's playing up here as well. Can we just take 2, but wait for the reply from 1 at a time, please? Thank you.
No worries. Just with the, I would just like to share the support for the report as well. So the 18th month-old health check, so that's going to one district. Which one is that?
That's going to be the Lincoln district, because that's where we're seeing that we need that enhancement of the 4 centres, enhancement of the offer, particularly around speech and language. And we want to be able to early identify. And the Healthy Child Review didn't pick up any more mandated checks. It didn't change anything, so it's just still the 2-2.5-year-old, and they generally get that about 2 years, 3 months. So we want to bring that forward, particularly looking at the development and the needs, so we can get them on the pathway as soon as possible.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And what sort of success metrics will we have to show that it is a success, and when will that be rolled out to the rest of the family hubs?
Is that specifically for the 18-month pilot? Yes. That one? Okay. Just my mic's on, isn't it? So the success metrics, we will expect to pick up need earlier. We'll expect to reduce the need on requests for EHCP assessments. So again, that's something that we're really looking at. We expect that families will be more likely to complete that ASQ3 check at 2-2.5-year-old as well, wanting to look at their child's development. So they're the sort of success metrics we want. And families' voice as well, that they're reporting that they are getting the services they need, they are being supported with their child.
So is there any sort of any like a few months, or is it a year that we're looking at this, and to show the metrics that and sort of carry that out throughout the whole sort of system?
Yeah, what we usually do, even if it's a pilot and we've got 3 years funding, we will still evaluate after each year, and we'll adjust and we'll change as necessary. And we are expected to update the strategy annually and look at that. So yes, we will look at all that annually. But again, the pilot, the funding is for the next 3 years.
Sorry, my mic is played up as well.
No.
Heather, please.
Thank you. And just to reassure all of the committee, really, those evaluations come here, and the changes to the plan come here. So this is an area of work. Once we've agreed it and launched it, it will come here for that monitoring as well, and we'll be able to talk about those successes. We'll be able to look at those metrics, and be able to explore all of that detail. But we do know that when babies are at that younger age of life, work with parents is much more likely to have an impact. Parents are much more likely to change how they're parenting, change what they're doing with their babies and their young children, and also make changes that lead to sustained outcomes. So it's that extra touch point for our health visiting team we're anticipating will be really positive. We're really excited about it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing it back in the committee. Is it okay to ask my other questions, or?
I'm going to go back to Councillor Davies, let him finish his 3 questions, and then we'll come back to you to let you finish yours.
Yeah, thank you.
If nobody, Councillor Overton in a minute as well, please. Thank you, Councillor Davies.
Thank you. Just building on previous conversation and discussion from Councillor Brooks, page 5 of the report, the GLD targets set by national government are really quite high in my view, not knowing all of the background. I suppose my first question is, you know, that's an ambitious target we've got to meet by 2028. I'm assuming that's going to be present on the dashboard that you're monitoring on a monthly basis. What kind of interventions are you going to do if, you know, in 12 months you're not on a line? How do you respond to that dipping below where it needs to be in the interim?
Thank you for your question. The targets are ambitious. Historically, we have been closely linked to the national average. So again, these are ambitious targets that have been set for us. As I said, we need some 700 more children to achieve those targets by 2028. Our dashboard is live data, so we can track each child. We know where every child is, whether they're in a setting, if they've had the 2-year review. So it is linked to that. So it is live data that we will look at monthly. And we will report to the governance board. There's quite a big governance around this. So we will be reporting to our governance board to make sure that we are meeting those targets and looking at those targets and adjusting resource and services. But it's a system-wide effort as well. So the early year system is quite motivated, quite excited about this extra funding, but excited about the achievements we can make within Lincolnshire for our children and our families. I hope that answers your question, Councillor Davis.
Heather would like to come in next, please.
Yeah, in terms of managing expectations though, GLD is published once a year. So it's published at the end of reception age, like the Key Stage 1 and the Key Stage 2 results. So whilst we'll have live tracking and we'll be working with schools, we won't be able to share schools' data whilst it's not validated and confirmed, because we have, in another part of Nikki's team, we have a role in moderating those results and quality assuring those results. So we just need to, I just want to manage expectations in terms of how reporting will happen through here around GLD, because it's a yearly one and it'll be reported when it's validated, which is what we're required to do.
Thank you, Heather. And just to mention as well that obviously the children that are turning 5 this year that and we'll be measuring that GRD, they were our COVID babies, and so there was unprecedented disruption during their critical development stage. So this year is when they turn 5.
Thank you. Just to come back on what Heather said there, can you just clarify, do you mean you'll have the numbers internally and will be aware if that GLD figure halfway through the year is dipping? No. Or are we saying that you will actually only know between now and 2028 annually what the figure is?
So we will, so good level of development, children won't achieve that till the end of the year. So we will know through our work with schools what they are telling us the cohorts are looking like in terms of being on track. But you have to get to the end and be assessed as having a good level of development. So obviously 6 months through reception, a good level of development is different to what a good level of development is at the end of reception. And as we know, it's a really fast-paced moving year. Children develop a lot in those really early years. So we won't have a figure and be adding more children to it. We'll be saying, looks like these ones are on track, and then what we do with the other part of Nikki's team is we'll be working with schools around their curriculum, around what they're doing with young people, around how they're exposing them to experience and learning that helps them to reach that good level of development. And Nikki's absolutely right. Schools, if there was a school leader sat here, they would say they do all of that themselves as well. So they're working really hard with the children in their communities to get them to a good level of development as well. But we wouldn't be able to say, oh, we've got... It's not a cumulative one. We have to wait till the end of the year.
Thank you for that explanation. Just very couple of quick questions. ASQ3, and forgive me if I'm getting the acronyms wrong. I suppose my question there is, the data suggests that it's showing improving outcomes. Are we certain that that's not just because the people who engage with that process are more likely to benefit from it, or is it almost a blanket assessment?
So the ASQ3 is the assessment that parents complete the assessment check, and they take that to their 2.5-year-old appointment. What we've noticed is parents aren't completing that, and so that's a red flag for us. And it's across the country. It's a government target across the country to look at ASQ3s that are delivered by our Children's Health and ensure that they are. That the quality is there and that the completion of that is, because that detects anything early, and it's a talking point for the professional with the parent if the parent is worried about any of the development areas for a child. So therefore we want to look at the quality. We are Lynn's team is looking at auditing the ASQ3, so that's going to be our benchmark and our starting point.
Thank you. And my final question.
Sorry, Richard, should I just make comment there? It is a low uptake with parents on the questionnaire. It's the age and the stages questionnaire. What are we going to do about that? How are you going to counteract that and get more on board with filling these questionnaires? And are they just online questionnaires, or is it a paper form as well for people?
Do you want me to answer that? Is it on? It's not online, no, it's for parents to complete that form and bring that. First of all, Councillor Collier, we are doing an audit on that. Lynn heads up the health team, and she'll be looking at an audit on that, so we've got a benchmark for that. But again, we are looking at the quality of that, and Lynn's very well cited with the health team about the development that's absolutely needed around that, because we have some 700 children that haven't completed in the last year that questionnaire. And so we want that completed so that is a talking point, and that is the route to early intervention for that child. So we are looking at that.
Thank you, because it is very important that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heather, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, as always, I'll take the opportunity to spread the word. We've got people listening and people in the room. It's really important that we fill in those questionnaires. It's, you know your children really well. You're picking up on their development. So by filling in that questionnaire and sharing it with professionals, you help us to have a conversation that's more closely linked to what you're seeing. But I'm confident we'll see a rise in that. And I think, Councillor Davies, that is judged across the whole, not just people who are engaging in this. So it should translate really well.
And because this isn't just a Lincolnshire issue, it's a country-wide issue. The DFE are doing campaigns on that to show parents how important it is to be able to do that.
Thank you, Nikki. Back over to Councillor Davies.
Thank you. Just final question. This is brilliant. The money's time limited. What's the ambition for when the government funding runs out? Do we keep doing this? Does this become a cost pressure on the council?
We've made sure that throughout this journey, we didn't know if we'd get another 3 years continual funding. And in the 4 years, our DLT were quite keen to work with us and say that we need to make our services sustainable, which we have. We've used our early years staff that we had in place, because we was a local authority that kept all of our children's centres. So there are a couple of projects that there would be a pressure on, but not all of our projects, and certainly not to the cost of £10.6 million. So our services are very sustainable and inbuilt within the early years system, which includes not just our own local authority staff, but all of our partners, NHS staff, so across the whole system. And it's a system-wide change, this is really as well, transformation work.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Sandy. Sorry, Heather. Sandy would like to come back in.
That's okay. And just to say, like, as with any grant, we will evaluate it. And, you know, if we really think something's having a really significant impact and is reducing cost elsewhere, we'd bring that through here as a decision. And we're really good at evaluating when we don't think something's working and not keeping that going through the grant. So that's just as important, isn't it, as the cost pressures we could have at the end, being prepared to change direction if something isn't having the impact. But we would do that in the same way we do with our grants, and that would come through here for scrutiny.
Thank you very much. Councillor Overton, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the very nicely displayed report, which is great. A couple of things. Just one is, if this questionnaire is important, where does somebody get it? If as you say, somebody listening now, or me talking to one of my residents, where is it, and who does it go back to? Is this a simple question first? Then I've got two others. Thank you.
So my understanding is it's given by the health visitor to the parent, and then the parent takes it to their appointment. But I'll just, just clarify. So it's not something you would be asking residents to fill in generally. We would ask them in our meetings with them to fill that in.
Yeah, and it's posted in advance to the parents. So it's posted out to the household where the child is, and they've got notice and time to complete that, and then they bring it to their appointment.
Okay, so it does depend on having a health visitor who's got the time to do the job. I know they do, but in my experience, it isn't always that easy. So hopefully they've all got a health visitor.
We've got 100% allocation in Lincolnshire, so everybody with a child at that eligible stage has got a health visitor and will receive a form.
That's great, thank you, that's comforting. The question I was going to ask is, you've talked very well about the youngsters who are in deprived areas, you know, and the extra 4 family hubs that are needed. You've also got a target to increase the others, haven't you, significantly, 63 or something to 70 something percent at that assessment. Are you doing anything different in those areas? Which I guess would be like mine, because although we don't figure on obviously we don't figure on the deprived areas, we do have deprived people who suffer, you know, a lot of difficulties in that area, but the services are not generally available as easily. So I'm just thinking about those that are in the other areas, and you talked about having 47 children's centres, but I don't think I've got one of those in my area either. Maybe you know better than me. Thank you.
Yes, we do have 47 centres. 14 of them will be designated family hubs, and they all offer a core of services across, and they are across the county. So I would need to look at yours if you want to contact me outside of the meeting to know exactly what's on offer in your area. But we do offer a core play activities, support, evidence-based programmes for parenting, access to information and advice for parents. So it is a universal offer. We have a universal offer, and then a more enhanced offer, which is needed for those areas of disadvantage and particularly 4 of those priority groups.
Yes, that's a universal offer in those 47 centres.
Yes.
So if you haven't got one of those within, my area is quite large, I have 14,000 people in it. If you've not got one, then, or you know, where, I'm just thinking about the others, you know, because we talked about rurality, but it's really hard to visualise if you don't live in those areas. You know, these are many miles and quite difficult transport sometimes. You know, have we got facilities that can be either mobile, you know, services that can be either mobile or I don't know how you do it, but perhaps you can tell me how you do it to provide for those people that are not in those areas that are close to a family hub. Thank you.
Everywhere in the county is linked in geographical area to a centre, so those 47 centres, and we provide outreach from there. We have a contract with the Early Years Alliance, play-based activities that also have outreach within that contract. Our early years practitioners reach out to those families that if it's not accessible for them to come into the centre, and so we do a lot of outreach as well.
That's great. That's what I wanted to hear. We have got village hall activities, and that would be quite useful if somebody just popped along and said hello, how they're getting on. That would be good, I'm sure, and spot things. Sorry, the second question is about language. You talked about speech and language, and I'm thinking that where you've got families, and I did do some door knocking in Lincoln recently, where you've got families who don't speak English and the children are to be assessed for speech and language therapy, it must be quite difficult if they don't speak English. It must be quite difficult. How do you manage that? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's about the formation of what questions you're asking them, what support that you need to give them, and so it's the formation of that child's speech. A lot of children do go into school and into our settings. They are speaking dual languages, so they are speaking our English language and they're speaking their home language, and so children pick this up really, really quite quickly.
Yeah, that you're assessing very early, aren't you? I think you're looking for children, young ones who might need extra care. Yeah, anyway, I've raised the issue. I'm sure they're aware of it. Thank you.
Yeah, you do that through the parents and the parenting support that's needed to support that child's acquisition of language.
Is that quite a problem now with the language barrier?
We haven't picked up it as that's a problem within Lincolnshire. No.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Nikki, I think the report's well worth waiting for, so thank you very much, and thank you for the printed copy. Haven't really got a question. I've visited several of the family hubs, as you know, and centres, and I'm not sure what other names we call them. And in fact, I think you showed me around the very first one I went to.
I did.
What struck me the most was the enthusiastic, caring and supporting attitude of the people within those centres. And I just wanted to acknowledge that while I could. I think one of the other things that came to my mind was this early involvement was the most important thing. And I know it's through an awful lot of what we do. And I think it's so important that we continue with that, which I know we will do. So thank you very much, and well done to all your people that look after the hubs. Thank you.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm really privileged to work with such enthusiastic early years staff, so thank you for acknowledging that.
Thank you. Councillor Carey, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Excellent report, so thank you for that. My question, which has been asked of me before, is when applying for an EHCP, how long does the process take from start to finish?
Okay, thank you very much for your question, Councillor Carey. The statutory timeline from assessment to publication of an EHCP is 20 weeks, but that sounds very straightforward. There should be a whole evidence base before that of the graduated approach, so evidence that children, young people have had input from services that are not needed you don't need an EHCP to access, and that they've done 2 cycles of plan do review with the schools. That's an individual education plan where schools or settings have endeavoured to meet the need through their own input. If it's reassuring, we do publish the data. The national average for the 20-week timescale is 46%, and in Lincolnshire, we're in our last SEN 2 that was published, we were 97% within 20-week timescale. So we're one of the highest performing counties in the country for timeliness.
Thank you. Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to echo what Councillor Rowe has said. They're absolutely fantastic, and I love the enthusiasm myself. Also, I'd just like to come back to the local plan. I absolutely love this. I really do. It's a bit like an instruction manual, especially on this page. Well, I've been scanning the QR codes, and when I brought me and my wife brought the first child out, we sat up all night. Hadn't got a clue what to do with this thing, and I'm like, where's the instruction manual? So if I'd got one of these, it would have been brilliant. I could have been scanning this and had a real good head start, to be honest. So my question is, does everybody get these? Are these in maternity wards, or do they go to schools, or are they just like, how do we get hold of them? And have you got a few I can take to my local parish and town councils, please? Thank you.
We do have some printed, we're waiting for final decision making on that, so we've printed some today to bring to you. We do have a few more that we can give you. But we're waiting for final decision making, then they will be printed and they will be shared amongst all of the early years system, which includes maternity wards, health visiting. And we do have a book that's already, with all of our activities that prior to this, 4 years ago, was developed. So families will know what activities are on across our 47 centres. So that goes out with midwifery, it goes out with health, it goes to reception classes, and it's in our foyer here, it's everywhere. So this one will follow the same once it's had final decision making on it. We have got a few today that I can leave with you. Okay.
Thank you very much. And back to Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you very much. Just to note as well, just an answer from Councillor Davies about the monthly check and that you have a sort of live database. That gives me a lot of confidence, and thank you very much for that. Just regarding, so I've just having a look at the rurality, the index of multiple deprivation. So obviously East Lindsey is one of them, which is the sort of most deprived areas. But the areas that are highlighted are sort of near sort of urban areas. So you've got sort of Mablethorpe, Skegness and Spilsby and Horncastle. So the hubs are generally around those urban areas. So I was just interested in the rurality. So where those specific areas that are most deprived, which is the most rural area which isn't covered, or how far away is that from a family hub?
We do cover all of the areas in Lincolnshire, but we cover that through some outreach as well. So so along the east coast, the strip there, we have done specific programmes, particularly around breastfeeding and particularly things with health around there as well. But we do cover all of it. It's not too far from any of our centres. And we link up with other providers. You'll have toddler groups, and our EYPs would go in there and give their advice about play-based activities and pick up parents for early intervention there as well. So I don't think there's any gaps that I would be saying would stand out to me now. And the gaps that we have identified are around the enhanced services needed to really bring those children and families on within Lincoln at the moment.
Brilliant, that gives me a lot of confidence. Is there one a family hub near to my division? I'll be interested to sort of see that and visit if that's available.
Yeah, I can contact you outside of this and I can arrange a visit for you. We'd welcome that.
Yeah, is that is it Mablethorpe, the closest one?
We've got a big centre in Mablethorpe.
Yes, brilliant. Yeah, you can invite me and my brother, who is also in Mablethorpe.
Okay, we shall write that down as an action.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You too? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a good one to go visit. I went to our family hub in Birchwood, and it's really very good. I was really impressed with it. Thank you. Councillor Daesh, please.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you very much for the report. Really good. Just a quick question. With the existing hubs that you have and the new ones coming online, how long will they take to get up to speed to the existing ones?
As soon as we've got sign-off for our additional services and the strategy, Councillor Oliver will be designating them excuse me, as family hubs within July, and as soon as our services will be ready to go by September. So the existing contract for speech and language will be ready by September, so the enhancement of a lot of those services will be ready for September at the latest.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Are the hubs going to be assisting parents that have children with disabilities, or are they going to be signposting them to areas of help in Lincolnshire? Thank you.
That's really both. It depends what the parent wants, so we can signpost or connect to the right service at the right time for the family, or we can give them information that they need. An extra strand to the 10 million that we have got given is around additional needs support. So that's 2 million support. And that's to look at Best Start inclusion practitioners and the speech and language. So that's something that's been recognised across the country as being needed. So we actually got 2 million extra this year for the next 3 years, which we were supposed to be expecting 8, and we got 10 because they've put that new strand of work in, really recognising that important work. But in the early years, it's trying to get families on the right trajectory, the right pathway, and so negating the need to go down that SEND route. Again, it will be SEND and disabilities. Disabilities, if children have that, they will be supported anyway. Some children will need that complexity of services.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, please? Oh, Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you, Chair. That's all right, it's working, isn't it? Yeah, I just wanted to pay homage to the early years team. It's an absolutely fantastic report, and I thank the committee today for all of your comments. They really are extremely welcomed. I think the early years service sometimes goes a little bit unnoticed amongst the other services within children's, and that could be down to the non-statutory label on there. And I think it's really important that we continue to realise just how incredible the impact is that is made from early years. The first 1001 days of a child's life is the most imperative time, and the work that the team are doing to identify early need and intervene and give that preventative work is just incredible. Nikki mentions today some numbers that we finally got in relation to the reduction on EHCP journey and what that means in terms of cost saving for the council. So I think when we look at cost pressures, as was mentioned earlier, in comparison to what early intervention and prevention actually has in terms of that cost prevention moving forwards, in terms of all of our services through the council, is just imperative. So yeah, I just wanted to give a massive nod to the team today. I'm extremely proud of all the work that they're doing, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. We've really appreciated your support.
Thank you. Yes, it's an excellent report. Thank you very much for you and your team that put so much work into it. And thank you for the really good questions, excellent questions and answers. Thank you very much for your time. Okay, are there any more questions from anyone, please? Oh, Councillor Brockway, please.
Thank you. Not a question so much as a comment, Chairman. Your excellent figures on EHCP. I just wanted to point out to Councillor Brooks, my family, my grandchildren have EHCPs, and when there is a delay, it's quite often not the council. We experienced a delay once and it was nothing to do with the council. They are dependent to quite a lot of extent on the external people who deal with the children. So I just wanted to point that out. I bet that 3%, most of that isn't the council.
Thank you for that remark. Thank you. Right. I propose that this committee has considered the report to the Executive Councillor for Children's Services and acknowledges the report's recommendations to the Executive Councillor. Can I please have a seconder? Councillor Brooks, thank you. So a summary of our comments as captured by the Senior Scrutiny Officer will be shared with the Executive Councillor for her consideration. We may now like to vote, please, on this item. All those in favour? Oh, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. That is carried. Thank you. Item 6 on the agenda. Children in Care and Care Leavers Strategy 2026 to 29. This item is on pages 17 to 68 of the agenda pack and is for pre-decision scrutiny. The committee is being consulted on an updated Children in Care and Care Leavers Strategy for 2026-2029. The report is due for consideration by the Executive on the 9th of June 26. All comments from the committee will be reported to the Executive prior to its decision. The actions required by the committee are to consider the attached report and to acknowledge the report's recommendations to the Executive as set out in the report. The report will be presented by Paul Fisher, Corporate Parenting Manager. Over to you, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, members will see that this leads on from the 2022 to 25 Children in Care and Care Leavers Strategy, which is referenced within the report and obviously has updates in relation to that particular report. The report itself has been compiled over a number of months with multi-service input. I want to reassure members and the committee that this is the raw report. It isn't the polished copy as you've seen for Nikki. The information itself needs to go to the designers for us to work with them to actually get the final version. What we're also doing is that we're doing a young person friendly version, because obviously this completely affects all of our children in care and care leavers, and we want to make sure that the design is absolutely appropriate and understandable for them. And as you can imagine, that takes a fair bit of work, so we wanted to get this signed off first and then take it forward. There are, as such, we will acknowledge there's a couple of grammar and consistency points within the report which we've flagged. So again, apologies for that. And some of the data we just need to tweak. So the current EAT data for care leavers currently sits at 64.1%. We put 50 to 57% because that's what it's been over the period. But we want to make sure that actually when it's published that data is absolutely spot on to reflect where we currently sit as well as where we have been. Again, it sounds as if I'm talking all about change for this report. There have been change. So when we look at the national picture, we've referenced the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill. That's recently become an act. So again, we need to just change that to make sure that actually the information that goes to the public is absolutely as accurate as we can make it. Just in terms of the report itself, and again, I'm not going to go through it page by page. In terms of the local picture, some of the things that we just really want to flag is that there has been an increase in the number of children coming into care, primarily in the 5 to 10-year-old grouping and the 16 to 17-year-olds. Obviously, in terms of the strategy, this means that there are continued challenges around placement and expenditure, which we're kind of working towards. Members that sit on the corporate parenting panel will be well aware of this, and obviously we'll do a children's scrutiny panel or committee, that the golden thread throughout the strategy and throughout the work that we do and the reports that we produce have the golden thread of our young people at its heart. So that means in terms of the participation, although there is the formal participation through V4C, through young inspectors, through the thematic corporate parenting panels, we constantly speak to our young people through our IROs, through our social workers, through our family networks to see what are the challenges, what are their needs, and what can we do in order to meet those needs. And again, that's very much captured within the report in terms of what young people are telling us. In terms of the key measures, as you'll see, the key measures are really around stability, education, health, care leavers and participation. And again, some of that is around placement moves, distance from home, attainment, attendance around EAT for children in care and care leavers, the health checks and CAMS and accommodation. Now, we track that, and you'll see within the strategy, but we track that through the quarterly performance dashboards, benchmarking versus the national and statistical neighbours, trend analysis, so seeing what the trends are for the authority, but also performance reporting. I'm sure the committee will be aware of Power BI, that the managers are able to look at on a daily and weekly basis to see what's happening with the individual young people, but also the trends and developments that we find as we progress throughout this period. Of course, the document itself isn't a static document. It covers a 3-year period. So within the document, we're very aware that we need to be reactive and progressive in terms of what we look at in terms of the plans. So if we see trends emerging, then we want to make sure that actually we can respond to these trends as soon as possible in a way that effectively addresses the issues, or actually builds on the performance and the good work that we're already doing. In terms of quality and voice, again, we do case audits, we do thematic reviews as part of the kind of work that they do within teams. And again, this feeds into the strategy. So what we do at the coalface, so to speak, feeds up to our team managers and our heads of service and actually changes the strategy as we go along. We do have review cycles, so the quarterly reporting, the annual strategy review, the exception reporting, again, which comes to corporate parenting, and the LSCP. In terms of governance and accountability, we do have strategic oversight of the strategy. Obviously, the corporate parenting panel holds partners to account, receives performance reports, obviously has the thematic meetings, which we're all very proud of in terms of that young, direct voice of the young people. But also, obviously, it falls within the transformation programme and the LSCP. So within the delivery structure of the strategy, there's senior manager agencies, so delivery groups within it, and thematic subgroups in relation to education, health, transitions, etc. We do have named leads across the board with our partners, so actually every single person is accountable, can feed back and hear what's being said and what's developing over the course of the strategy. And obviously there is the scrutiny, as we said, through the committee oversight here, through corporate parenting panel, through Ofsted, and obviously through independent reviewing officers, advocacy service, to ensure that actually what we're saying that we're going to deliver to young people is actually landing with them. Because again, young people are at the heart of our strategy, and we need to make sure that actually what we're saying that we're going to do actually leads to real life change for these young people. So again, really just to kind of end on the voice of the child, because I know I kind of touched on it in the first instance, but our young people are absolutely our key to this strategy. They were there for the development of the strategy. We've had their voices throughout. We've continued to capture their voice in the 22 to 25 strategy. They tell us what they need, as well as what the challenges and the positives are. It's down to us as corporate parents to identify not only meeting those needs, but actually what they don't know about, so the things that will progress them, some of the challenges that they have from the trauma that they have through kind of the previous history of coming into care, but also how do we develop that beyond the individual young person, beyond what that young person is telling us, into our wider children in care and care leaver grouping. So again, a very whistle-stop tour. Obviously, if there's any questions from the committee, there's myself, Andy Morris and Rachel Freeman here to answer any of those.
Thank you very much, Paul. And you do so much work. We're really grateful for what you do for our children in care. And I'm just jumped onto the corporate parenting committee, so I'm looking forward to being with you all on that as well. Okay, have we have any questions, please? Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for saying about the fact that we're going to have a better and more child-friendly sort of show of what we're doing, and I think that's going to help really well to show what we're doing for young people and that we are listening to them. Just about the EETs, it's great utility. I like that is on there. Summer Coats Academy that I went to last year have been delivering its from year 7, so it is and they're seeing great outcomes from that. Just regarding the skills passport, I know this is sort of a draft. Is there any more information about what that is? As a corporate parent, I want to see them get the best opportunity out of that, and I think that's a great opportunity for them to gather as many sort of things for their in a CV, so then they're shown at the best light to employers, and what the KPIs for that success.
Oh, apologies. This is a relatively new development. Apologies. Yeah, this is a relatively new development. We've just commissioned with them providers. It's actually a care experienced person, a formerly care experienced gentleman who's set up a skills passport that we're rolling out with our children in care and care leavers, and he's actually coming to present an award as well at the FAV Awards this year. And he's developed a passport through his own experience and his own kind of conversation with children in care and care leavers about what the skills that you need to build your preparation for independence. And what we've worked with him to develop is a passport and a record of work that we're going to be undertaking with young people, and this is literally coming online right now. So sorry, when you say skills passport, I was like, hang on, let me have a little look. That it's so new that we've commissioned this service with him, and we've got 10,000 licences to work with young people. So we've got plenty of licences to work this year and next year to evidence and review the impact of that. So that what we're going to have with our young people is a record of all the work and we've done with them and the evidence to show the skills they have to ensure they are generally prepared for adulthood and that kind of interdependence within their community. And the other element we then would do with that is marry that alongside their pathway plan, which we review every 6 months. That skills passports could start to build with young people from the age of 16. So apologies for the slightly blank look there, but that's a very, very new element that we've put into this strategy because we've just kind of developed that relationship with him. And we'll be meeting him at the Fab Awards as well.
No, it's brilliant to see that we're sort of helping our young people to get the best opportunity, and it's a new sort of thing. I think it's a no-brainer, really. So very pleased about that. So is it an app or is it a document that they have? Just for clarity.
It's a little bit of both. It's a paper document. It's going to be an app. They're going to have their own kind of information they can take away from it. So this is something we're developing with this new provider as well that we've got on board with him. And the beauty of it is because he's care experienced himself, he's come with an awful lot of prepared and self-knowledge to bring. And it's actually kind of when we have gone through development of it with our young people, they understand it. It speaks to them, and it's very, very clear that intuitively he knows exactly how to word things and connect with our young people. That's really creating something that's helpful for them to look at, and that's getting into employment. That's just those general life skills. It's every aspect of their young person's life. So we're really quite excited about them. We'll see how this kind of takes off.
And just lastly, just how we're going to push that on our children in care to get the most out of this skills passport. How are we going to push them to go, put as much on there as possible so they have the best opportunity?
Well, the skills passport it's a record as well as pieces of work to do with your personal advisor or your social worker. So it's something that will be taken to them. There's statutory 8 weekly visits as a care experienced young person. So every time their PA, the personal advisor, will be working with the young person or reviewing their pathway plan every 6 months. That'll be one of the documents we refer back to, and a piece of work that we'll have in an ongoing conversation. Some young people might not want to use it. They are young adults with their own ability to say no, but with the high engagement rates with our young people we have, this is something we can really take to them to keep kind of building that evidence with them about making sure they're ready for their own lives.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. I'm looking forward very much to the Fab Awards. Popping along to that, and Councillor Smith is as well. So we're looking forward to that. It's a couple of weeks' time, isn't it? Yeah, thank you. Councillor Davies, please.
Thank you for the report. There's clearly a great deal of work going on here, and obviously this is something that Ofsted have picked up on in the past, particularly around care leavers from children in care. I think the strategy is good. If I could criticise it, I think it lacks targets for the ambition. There's lots of ambition, lots of great work. Being critical, I think it would be really helpful to have some numbers that match the ambition, something that we can hold you to account for in the most positive and supportive of ways. 2 very quick questions. If I'm reading the report correctly, it suggests that your strategy doesn't require any additional funding, but then there's lots of talk about doing more things like local placements, therapeutic supports, more housing support. My first question is, how are you going to do that? Can that be done within the existing cost envelope?
Okay, thank you for the question. In terms of data, there is an awful lot of data captured around the work we do with children in care and care leavers anyway, in that the statutory returns around suitability of accommodation, engagement in education, employment and training, engagement with services, stability of housing. So when it comes to creation, like because Nikki's strategy is kind of the Lincolnshire creation, there's many national matrix that we have to report against anyway. So they already exist and we are already held to account alongside those performance criteria. Sure.
Just to come back, I have no doubt there's lots of data there. I think what I would suggest, is my view, is some of those targets ought to be in this strategy.
We can do that.
So, for example, what is your ambition for transitioning across to care, from care into work, and what's your ambition for school performance? Just taking some of those metrics and saying, actually, this is what our ambition is as parents. Because for my own children, I have ambition for my children, and I'm not saying I've got a KPI matrix I sit at home and stare at, but I have an idea of where I want them to be, and I think putting some numbers behind that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I think that's very helpful, thank you. And that's something we will do. We'll take that away and we'll have a look at the strategy and where we've got particular ambitions and particular targets and things we want to achieve as a strategic level. We can put some of those matrices against it about where we want to perform and what the minimum requirement is nationally and where we want to be against them. Yes, we can do that, definitely. And the second question was around, in terms of, there's a whole raft of work, as I'm sure you'll be aware, around children in care transformation, the work we're undertaking in this space. And there's a large piece of work undertaken through the review of our supported accommodation offer that's we've just closed the tender, so we're now reviewing the bids. And part of that process is around stability and suitability of accommodation. So I'm just picking this as an example to exemplify the work that's going on. And all of that has been through CLT, DLT, through scrutiny, through executive, around what it is our ambition to commission and what it is and how much it will cost to meet the needs of our young people. So that is a constant ongoing moving feast. And then around education, employment and training, that again through the virtual school and through our DLT, CLTs and through executive again and through this committee, anything that affects a service that we need to deliver to our children will all be costed and assessed against the benchmark and where we need to be, making sure the resources and it's going to be a sufficient sum of money and also sufficient capacity in that service to meet the needs. So whilst the strategy sets the ambition, anything that will help deliver that ambition will be costed separately and anything additional will be brought through the process. So anything to meet the needs of our looked after children and care leavers will follow that kind of that due process to bring it here for yourselves for further scrutiny. And that would probably why this strategy would sit alongside anything that's been brought to you and be referenced in any future papers. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. My final question, if I may, Chairman, is in terms of looked after children placed out of county, what are the latest numbers and costs associated with that?
Thank you. So we have a tracker in terms of those children that are placed out of county, both within independent fostering agencies and within independent residential. At the moment, it's 145 in out-of-county placements. When I say out-of-county, actually, they might be in-county, but they're in external provision. The costs of that have significantly increased. I think everyone will be aware of the national market and the climate out there. The government's just embarking on a fostering reform programme, which is out for consultation at the moment. That's to create more foster placements. We're really ambitious and we've already started on that journey in Lincolnshire with our very unique focus foster care. And, I'd be asking any member of the public, to get in touch with us via our website in respect to focus fostering or any fostering. So we've been quite successful. So we got a programme to recruit 12 more focus foster carers by the end of the year, and we're on target for that. What we're also doing is we're making the most of the potential opportunities to reunify children home with their parents or their kinship carers. Again, we've got some ambitious targets around that, and we're already on target to achieve those 8 children to be reunified where it's, of course, safe to do so. This is all part of the transformation programme and to reduce the reliance on very costly external placements that some really provide good quality care, but actually we know that we can provide that care in-house just as good if we have that capacity, and that's really what we're striving to do to increase internal capacity. In the first wave of the transformation programme, we opened 2 in-house children's homes that have been very successful at Louth and Robin House at Lincoln, and we are currently searching for a 3rd step forward home, which will be based very much on the Louth and the Lincoln home, and it's to really settle those children and then for those to be able to step out to foster care or to step out to kinship care with their families or networks.
Sorry, can I just push, what is that value of
Can I, yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, I recognise we didn't answer the question. I don't know if we've got the cost of just the independent placements now. This committee's had it because we bring it through as part of the Children Transformation Plan, but if Tara doesn't know it, and I'm not suggesting she should know it, but if she doesn't know it, because we don't want to give information that's not quite right, we certainly can give it to you. And what I can assure you is it is reported through this committee as we do the transformation programme, and we look at what are the costs, what are the areas in which we can save costs. And one of the things that's really important within children care is that placement mix. So the more children we have in family-based homes, in foster caring, is much better for children, first and foremost, and is an effective way to protect the council's finite resource. So if Tara hasn't got it,
it changes, it can change on a monthly basis, so I will circulate it to you after this meeting, then I will have the exact figure for you.
Thank you. And then what I will say is we do report through, and also when we do our budget reporting, it comes through as well. So apologies, we can't give you that figure right now.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brockway, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Again, a very interesting report. I've got a couple of comments and a question as well, please. When it comes to the voice of the child, which is very important, I do sometimes feel that we need to be aware that they may not know in the first place that there is a question to ask. Sometimes being able to ask a question relies on prior experience. And so sometimes it might be necessary to give information before they can then formulate questions. And I would like to be assured that this happens. Excuse me. We're supporting them to achieve their potential. But I've previously taught children in care, and one of the things that always worried me, and this was quite a long time ago, we're talking years, one thing that did worry me is that when they went out into their flats and their various accommodations, they were certainly looked after and given clean accommodation, but they may not know then how to keep it clean. They may not know how to boil an egg, how to keep their money safe, how to clean the cooker and how to clean a saucepan. And some minor accidents did occur. I'm probably talking 15, 20 years, okay? So things will have changed since then. But what I really want to be reassured is while we're doing all this, and this is a strategic document, I am aware, but what about the very, very considerable detail of how you function? Do you know how to wash that jumper without shrinking it? You know, it's that level of training. Do we give it? Do we support it? And if not, why not? Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just in relation, I'll answer the life skills one first, if that's okay. Okay, so that comes a little back to what we were just talking just about Councillor Robinson about that life skills passport. That's going to have an awful lot of that within there. But rest assured that all of our foster carers or our residential settings, that is all part of that training support to foster carers. It's about how to support our young people, not just to parent and care for them, but also genuinely parent and care for them to prepare them for independence and adulthood. And one of the things, as I was just referring to Councillor Davies about the supported accommodation model we're just reviewing, within that model, for example, there's a floating support capacity so that when our care experienced young people move out into their more independent accommodation, we now have a small capacity of staff to go visit, check, are you paying your bills, how's it going, is the house clean? Although we provided safe and suitable accommodation, it's getting behind the front door and meeting our young people and saying, now genuinely, how's it going? And alongside that, they also have their personal advisor who will be visiting them every 8 weeks. So we're going to be able to target and understand those young people through their pathway plans and looking at their value in care tool. What are their needs and where are they and where do we need to target this additional resource to, because that's what makes the difference. But the whole journey through care that, I don't know if you wanted to come and say anything, Rachel, as well as children in care, it is about that preparation for that moment of adulthood. And then it's the leaving care service of support through to 25. So it does taper off dependent on needs of young people, but rest assured, all of those things those young people have said in the past around, I don't know how to use a washing machine or to boil an egg, etc. Those are some of what that skills passport's going to have in it as well, to double check we're doing that kind of business with our young people as well. So, multi-layered.
I believe Heather would like to come in there, please.
Thank you. Just to say I've got the figure for Councillor Davies. So it's 25 million at the end of last year. So March, end of March.
Thank you.
Sorry, can we have a comparison to your in-house ones? That's the cost for the external.
So just to say, the detailed budgetary work and the children in care work come through this committee as separate reports. This one's specifically about the strategy. So I'm quite happy to go through all of it, but we've got all the comparisons and I can share it, but it does come through as a separate paper. Is that okay, Councillor?
I'm just thinking what Councillor I'm subbing today for Councillor Cleaver, so I'm trying to think what questions he would ask me as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rowe, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd previously seen the report, so I've no real questions. What I think it says to me is that we don't stand still. Outstanding Ofsted report, but there was slight weakness in the leaving care service, so it was took in-house and has been enhanced and is getting better all the time. Corporate parenting panel was highly regarded, but it was identified that there wasn't enough young people involvement, and that is now being corrected and what's the full phrase, enhanced all the time as we go along, as we see it. I thank Councillor Davies for his comments about stats effectively, but yeah, I think it's important to see the targets and see where we're at. The only other thing probably to comment on is page 28 of the pack, page 4 of the report. Did you really need to put the thorn between the two roses? Thank you.
Did you want to reply to that? Okay. Councillor Carey, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. In the part of putting children first, listening to the children and asking them if where they want to stay is in actual care rather than where they feel safe and thriving, rather than going back to maternal family or up for adoption, how much do the children actually get a say? Because sometimes, in my experience, which I've had quite a bit, children are thriving when they've been with families for years and years in foster care and they want to stay, but they don't get that choice. Thank you.
Thank you. We work with children right from the start, as soon as they come into care, to obtain their voice. It's obviously a very traumatic time for them, and it's not as simple as saying, where do you want to live? Because obviously we've got welfare concerns, and we need to balance that out. So right through their journey, they're encouraged by their social workers, by their independent reviewing officers, by anyone that's supported them to obtain their views. And we try and do that in neutral environments, so, you know, away from their carers or their parents. So they've got loads of opportunities to tell us what it is they really want. We also have to work with them that sometimes we can't give them what they want for a variety of reasons. So we work really hard to explain that to children in the most appropriate way and give them the support to understand and accept those decisions. In terms of their longer term planning, so once the children are aware, if they're not going home, that work is done with them to prepare them prior to that decision being made. And then they know that that decision is made by the wise judge, and they're given the opportunity sometimes to write to the judge with their views. There's a whole raft of work that goes on with the children to try and enable them to feel heard, as though their voices have been heard, even if the outcome is not what they want. In terms of our foster carers, if foster carers are able to keep our children longer term, they will, more often than not. If the children are settled and happy, that will be a plan that we will continue with. If the care plan is adoption, then obviously those children are much, much younger, so less able to express their views. But for those on the older end of adoption, work is done with them, and there's very good transfers between foster carers and adopters, and more often than not those families stay in touch with each other, and so some level of contact does continue, and that transition is handled as best as possible. Children in long-term care, a lot of our carers if they're able to, will keep children, but sometimes they cannot for a variety of reasons. Some are how to put this diplomatically, on the older age of the spectrum and way past retirement years. So if they've got a child who's, say, 5, for example, in their care, it can, you know, they can have concerns about that. So very much on an independent basis, we'll support children and carers to make the best possible decision for that child, and take that forward as their care plan.
Can I just come back with that one quickly? Yep, as you said, the age 5, there's a lad that's 5 that's been with a foster carer for just over 4 years, and the foster carers want to keep this child for long term, but they're not given the option. It's either back to maternal family if they pass all the tests. If not, it's up for adoption. If you ask the child, he'd want to stay where he is.
Okay, yeah.
Because they would.
No.
And they're not being listened to.
Can't discuss individual
Yeah, I know,
cases,
individual.
but
Yeah, that's
just
an
let
example.
me give you some assurances that sounds to me like it's a case that's within a set of care proceedings, and within that set of care proceedings, there's obviously court oversight, but that each child has an independent children's guardian from CAFCAS that also, independently of the local authority, works with that child and represents the child's views within the court arena. But obviously, these are life-changing and very difficult decisions, and so I'm sure the people within that set of care proceedings will work together to get the best outcome. Unfortunately, sometimes care, if it is a return home, we always support that if that's safe. And so sometimes there can be tensions there, but we work really hard to get, you know, to support everybody that cares for that child to come to terms with the decision, and that move on is positive.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, please? Councillor Daesh, please.
Thank you. Like the report, couple of aspects here. Care leavers, when they get to a certain age, and perhaps they're with a system of when they want further education, have they got any opportunities, not only within this county, but if they apply to, say, go to a university or whatever, that they can go out of the county and then get financial support for that?
Yep, that's a very easy answer. Yes, absolutely. It's not just about attending university in Lincolnshire. 41% of our care experience young people live outside of the boundaries of Lincolnshire. And if you've got young people who want to go to university, absolutely, they go to the university of their choice to pursue the course they wish to pursue. We've got a package of university support around supporting with fees, accommodation, as any parent would, supporting their young person to go to university. I'm going to email the team now and see if I can get the exact figures of the number of young people we've got in university at the minute, but I know it's plus 20 at least young people in university or higher education, further education at the moment. So if a young person wants to go to Liverpool University, because that's where the course is, and they're living in Lincolnshire, we'll absolutely support them with attending the visiting days, going and socialising and learning about what Liverpool's all about, support them to find their accommodation, textbooks, laptops, as a parent would, and we would support them with the university fees, etc., and accessing all the grants available to them.
Just to come back, what about apprenticeships?
Same again, we've got our own apprenticeship scheme, actually, called the Care Leavers Apprenticeship Scheme. So if a young person wants to access an apprenticeship, I'll absolutely support them to access that. But what the council also does through the Care Leavers Apprenticeship Scheme, because given that apprenticeship salaries can actually be really very challenging and quite low, we have a service whereby we work with employers and education providers to make sure we match young people with the right setting to get the practical skills, along with the education setting to support the apprenticeship in a way, and we support that salary of that young person. And as a corporate parent, they become an employee of the council. And we've got a number of young people that move through that Care Leavers Apprenticeship programme for many, many years, and it's been a huge success for Lincolnshire. We've had a number of care experience young people employed directly in the council as well on apprenticeships, and that's always a moving feast as our young people find their opportunities. So yeah, absolutely, with apprenticeships be supported.
Just one more. With the apprenticeships, and they apply, can they do that outside the county, and is there a restriction for how far they can go?
Again, we've got young people, I can have a look at the map now, we've got some young people living in Inverness and some people living in Cornwall, and if a young person wants to access an apprenticeship in Inverness, then they will be supported through our education employment training team and our aspiration coaches to make sure that they're connected in with the right providers, the right practical settings to access the apprenticeship in the location they live. The corporate parenting duty, when we bring a child into care, Lincolnshire retains that until the young person becomes 25. So wherever the young person lives, we take that duty to them. And if they live in Inverness, that's where we'll support them to access that apprenticeship. So, yep, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Are any other questions, please? Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Chair. Another fantastic report, an incredible amount of work, and the passion and ambition for our care experienced young people and our children in care completely shines through from the team, so thank you. We've already heard a bit of a plug from Tara about fostering, so I just wanted to give a bit of a plug for our supported lodgings. So supported lodgings is a little bit different to foster care. It's about offering a young person who might want to move on from a children's home or move on from a foster care home into a more independent setting. So anyone at home that could offer a room to one of our young people so that they can be more of a member of the household rather than a dependent. And you are offering them a room and you are offering them guidance and support when needed so that you can help to improve their independence and get them ready for their next steps in life. So if there is anyone listening and they would like more information, then please do visit the website.
Thank you for that plug. Thank you very much. Anything we can do for our children in care is more than worthwhile, and thank you for your report. Thank you very much. And thank you for listening to the comments and suggestions that have been made today. This is the importance of scrutiny, that we take on board all points. Okay, are there any other questions before we move on? Okay, thank you. I propose that the committee has considered the report to the executive and acknowledges the report's recommendations to the executive. Can I please have a seconder? Councillor Daesh, thank you. A summary of our comments as captured by the Senior Scrutiny Officer will be shared with the executive for its consideration. We will now vote on this then, please. All those in favour? I think that's unanimous. Yes, thank you very much. That is carried. I'm going to call our break now because I thought this might happen. Lots of questions today, and so if we have 10 minutes, if we can be back just before 22, because we've still got a lot to get through. Thank you. Or can you please make sure your bags, your laptops, and everything are secure when you leave chambers? Thank you. Yes, we'll make a start, everyone, if you could take your seats, please. We still have a fair bit to get through. Before we do carry on with this second session, if you like, we have a star amongst us, and I'm sure we all are stars in some way, but we have a special lady amongst us today, Heather Sandy, who is just nominated recently for a CBE, is going down to the Palace on Monday to receive her CBE formally. So congratulations again, Heather, for everything you do for children's. We really know you work hard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm very much looking forward to it and appreciate that. Thank you.
We're really, really pleased for you. Thank you. Well done. Right, item 7, a special schools funding 26 to 27 funding formula review. This item is on pages 69 to 102 of the agenda pack and is for pre-decision scrutiny. The committee has been consulted on the special schools funding 26-27 funding formula review. The report is due for consideration by the Executive Council for Children's Services between the 15th and 19th of June 26. All comments from the committee will be reported to the Executive Council prior to her decision. The actions required by the committee are to consider the attached report and to acknowledge the report's recommendations to the Executive Council for Children's Services as set out on the report. I know Martin Smith would like to go first on this. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you very much, Chair. So today the report's presented to you around the special schools funding formula, and the proposals contained within are specifically around state-funded special schools, so not relating to mainstream schools or other such provisions. What I wanted to say to the committee today was just to link into some of the history. So you'll recall over the years that the council worked hard around its building communities of specialist provision, creating 500 additional spaces and implementing an all-needs approach within the special schools, and that's been built on with the Better Belonging strategy. So the proposals within the paper really build on that. The schools are at a time now where the special schools, are now at a time where that better belonging, meeting all needs, can also flow through into the principles of the funding formula. The formula was set in 2011-12 and adapted in 2019, so we feel now is the right time to revisit it. And what I wanted to share with you is that working group across all of the special schools has been really well attended. And when we talk about matters of finance and funding, it's always really challenging and difficult to get to an agreed position. And I want to thank the special schools for working with us to formulate these proposals. I think nobody's over the moon with the proposals, but nobody's unhappy with the proposals. So we found that golden sort of opportunity of being content in the middle. What everybody shared is the ambition for things to be simplified, clearer and easier to manage. In the old system, we had a number of bandings that created almost an annual cycle of, are you a band A, B, C, D, E, F, G? And the whole process of that, when you've got 2,500 children in the special schools, is an arduous evidence-based activity, and all agreed that really, ultimately, that was not really worth the effort to be able to get it to where it needed to be. So the working group's designed 3 levels: the core funded, the all complex, and the enhanced level of funding, so that children can be categorised and funded on that way. And our place funding and top-up arrangements have been changed to allow greater flexibility, and Mark will talk a little bit more around that additional funding and how that will benefit children. The key point I just wanted to mention is everybody will be really well familiar with the pressures on the high needs block in Lincolnshire. We are in a structural deficit this year. However, without a positive response in supporting our special schools to be able to maintain meeting the need of complexity, the cost that we would incur in spite of that will be significant. So if we can't maintain a special school place, an alternative placement probably will cost on average £70,000 to £75,000. That is twice the amount it costs within the special school estate. So I wanted to just point that out to the committee because we understand that it's a deficit budget, but this is about managing cost avoidance, meeting need and really enhancing the strategy. I think what I'd also just like to say is a thanks to supporting evidence that's been provided by the special schools. So they've given us detailed costed analysis of what their costs are, so we can do a really rich evidence base. Thank you for them for responding to the consultation responses as well. And I hope that the committee feels that that context is helpful when we move into the more detailed approach. So I'll hand over to Mark Popwell to be able to give a little bit more detail on the funding mechanisms.
Thank you, Martin. Yes, as Martin says, it's a matter of good practice to review funding formulas to make sure it's reflective of current needs and practices, particularly in the special schools as the landscape is continually changing, but also to support growth in places where opportunities arise in terms of buildings, but also supporting that higher complex pupil needs within our local areas. And very much linked to that better belongings and the tiered levels of support with the inclusion of now SEND hubs. We feel that there's a real opportunity here to adapt the formula to support special schools to meet those more higher complex needs. So as part of the working group, we set up some key objectives that we wanted to succeed with. One of those was obviously funding some simplification to try and support the sector in terms of their financial planning, stability, but also their ability to have confidence in taking more complex children in the future. There was also the reflection on funding levels. The government have funded pay awards partly. We've seen rising costs in these areas. And when we say part-funded pay awards, it's particularly evident and impactful relating to special schools because of the smaller teacher to pupil ratios. So it has a greater impact compared to what would be in mainstream schools. To support higher complex needs of pupils, as I've said, and obviously increasing places. So key principles of financial sustainability in this sector was very key, as indeed value for money, as Martin's echoed in terms of from a council perspective on high need spending. Clearly there'll be even greater scrutiny from the Department for Education and our spending, but it's about trying to ensure that it's a fit for purpose formula and to meet our overall goals in ensuring that we can meet children locally. And the core principles of the formula, very much based on objectivity, equity, transparency, and they remain absolute paramount and build on the components and the strong components that we've had with the existing funding formula. So we've adapted simplification in terms of the pupil bands, as Martin explained, in terms of core school delivery, all complex needs and enhanced needs. And the respondents to the consultation all agreed with the actual proposed 3 bands and the simplification approach and overall majority of the band descriptors. So band descriptor feedback from the sector, we'll be reflecting on some of that, but substantially it remains correct. In terms of, as Martin's explained, this simplification is also trying to reduce the administration and also to try and support schools in terms of financial planning, particularly around sort of band discrepancies where they feel that it's not aligned to the correct band. And in this first year, we've actually built in a 5% tolerance funding relating to the old band B, where outstanding matters are still to be resolved. And we're committed to resolving those through a future moderation process. There may be exceptional circumstances where additional funding is required where needs fall outside of the all complex needs and enhanced needs. So exceptional funding is not an extension of banding, but it's there to try and support those most extreme and complex needs to provide a safe supporting environment with the education provision. The consultation responses on those, again, supported the principle of that again, it's really important to try and support and provide confidence to the sector in terms of those additional needs beyond those core bands. And also we've agreed with the sector that we'll be aligning pupil bands to the new categories, which has been outlined as part of the overall indicative funding, as indeed exceptional funding criteria as well will also be worked in collaboration with the schools. So some schools are in receipt of exceptional funding through the current arrangements, and it's making sure that they're mapped fairly across, and that was sort of representation from the sector, and we accept that, and that's something that the local authority is intending to do. In terms of the funding simplification, in terms of the government's Department for Education's place and top-up arrangements, so key cost drivers have been costed based on a theoretical cost model, and that has been built up based on the existing funding formula, but also special school survey information, working group information, and built up on latest pay scales and latest information in terms of spending reports. So it really reflects those current prices. And also as part of the working group conversations, again, the local authority has been reflective in those conversations to ensure that the formula is aligned to their approaches. So we certainly adapted to the model class sizes for those specialist social, emotional and mental health schools. And also we've been reflective in terms of the all complex needs band to try and provide that flexibility because of the broader range in need within that arrangement. But it will also remain important to keep on to review these core components of the formula, and also annual funding updates to reflect those cost changes as well, to ensure that the funding remains accurate. So all respondents were supportive of the funding structure. They were also supportive of the single monetary rate for a school operation based on the average size of a special school, which is nationally set at 150 pupils, so we've costed it based on that. And the SEMH schools based on 80 places based on local considerations. But because of, you'll all be aware in terms of the actual landscape of special schools, they all offer different sizes, so from all complex needs from 100 places to 300 places, operate over different sites. It's important that we've been able to be adaptive and building in split site factors and small school factors to support those schools with higher costs than had they been all on one site. So overall funding levels within the special school sector is proposed to increase, and this is indicatively to be around £3 million. Special school place funding will range from circa 20,000 to 30,000 per place, which benchmarks well. We feel comfortable with that approach because it's based on its costed model. And as Martin's explained, in terms of comparing that to specialist independent placements of circa 70,000, we've been very much mindful of supporting the sector, but also in terms of reflecting in terms of the impact that's going to have on the high needs block, and hence why sort of transitional support has been adapted for the first year. But it's very much about trying to support the local authority in terms of its local reforms and supporting increasing complexity within our special school sector, enabling an increase in places where capacity allows, but also trying to support that long-term sustainability of the high needs block. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to Martin and to Mark there. Thank you very much. I'd now like to invite members of the committee to open up with any questions they have. Councillor Davis, please.
Yeah, thank you for the report. This is a big piece of work that is sensitive and no doubt going to be difficult. I've got 4 questions. I'll break them into pairs, if that's all right with you, Chairman. Thank you. I think looking at the report, the cost envelope is going to go up by about 3.4 million. Obviously, this is set against a background in the schools grant of a deficit of 30 million, most of which sits within the higher needs block. I suppose my first question is, how do you envisage this over the years may help to address that? I know it's not part of the full solution, but it's certainly part of it.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, I think what we've seen over recent years is quite unprecedented growth and an increase in costs. So we were in a very strong financial position only 2 years ago, but then we've had a deficit in 24-25 of 60 million on the high needs block, and then subsequently 30 million and rising. So clearly there are steps that we need to take, and I think this is the area in terms of independent placements where we have seen the significant growth in terms of numbers, but also the impact financially because of those levels, even allowing for the increase in the numbers of the special schools estate. So I think with the SEND hubs, we've obviously come forward in terms of those plans, in terms of how the cost differential between independent and hubs, which are circa around sort of 20,000 per place versus your 70. And again, likewise with this. So what we're hoping in time that actually the special schools will take in them much greater needs, which is then negating or mitigating the growth needed in that high needs area. So that and essentially this formula is trying to facilitate that, but also to try and give the confidence to the sector that actually there is funding there for them to do that. And I think that's something I probably should have referred to, is that the formula as it is, in terms of that very much, which is band G, exceptional band, it was more for the medical dependency ones. What we've done is we've actually tried to widen that to actually reflect all needs. So where there are actually total dependencies, whether that's SEMH or other needs. So actually the special schools can actually have the funding to support those needs where possibly they've not been able to have that before. So clearly this is going to be a transition. And I think this is something whereby when we're looking at the local plan on the do nothing scenario where it could be over 50 million in terms of an overspend in 26, well, hopefully this will look to bring this down. But it's something that we just need to model with the schools. But for me, it's the way to try and facilitate and alleviate that high needs deficit trajectory.
Yeah, thank you. That was a useful. My second question on this batch is, and you've alluded to it there, you know, once the transitional arrangements end, there are going to be winners and losers. It may not be appropriate to name individual schools that are going to lose, but you know, is looking at it, they've got 12 months to get used to, assuming that some will lose money. They're going to have 12 months to get used to a potentially significant drop in budget. Is that viable, possible, plausible?
Okay. Yep, good question. So in terms of the mechanisms within the Department for Education framework, there is a 0% minimum funding guarantee. So no schools can lose money in terms of place funding having the same type of children. Through this funding arrangement, no schools are losing. As I alluded to, the government's part-funded pay award and also reflective of in terms of overall needs, so reflecting that the build-up of those costs probably needed to be adapted, and that's what we've adjusted. So all schools are increasing, but they are increasing by differing levels. On average, circa about 5%, but some schools are actually gaining more than others. And we've obviously had to adapt because of the reference to that no special school is the same. We've had to adapt the formula, which is where the small school factor and the split site factor was able to step in to address those schools that ordinarily would have been losing monies as a result of that arrangement. So we've worked hard with a working group to try and do a best fit, and I feel it does that, and it also encourages schools to actually grow as well. So where that capacity exists, before there was quite strong economies of scale built into that. Now it's actually we've got these amazing buildings. If we feel that there's capacity to grow even further in a safe environment, the formula allows that to happen.
Thank you. I think Heather wanted to come in there, please.
Actually, Mark covered it really well, but I think that last point's really key. What we think this formula does is respond to special schools saying, I could open some more places, but actually I'm at the tipping point where it's not financially a sensible decision for me to make. This does say if you meet need of more children, it will be financially sensible for your school, and it's financially sensible for the council because otherwise we'll be placing externally. And I think that's really what special schools have been telling us and what we have been trying to respond to. So I think that almost answers both of your questions around how is it going to address it.
Thank you. Councillor Brockway, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you for the report. I particularly like the detailed explanations of the descriptors and including the questions and answers, very helpful. I've just got a question about one of the descriptors rather than the finance, Chairman, if that's okay. The middle descriptor, I'm just concerned slightly about the last phrase, which says that specialist environments and skilled adult support that they needed, for much to most of the school day. I'm just concerned about that wording for much to most of the school day, because if children on EHCP level provision, there's a tiny implication there that they don't need skilled adult support or specialist environments for part of the school day. So I'm reading it differently from the way you clearly intend it, but I shouldn't be able to read it differently. So if you look at it, severe enduring cumulative needs requiring EHCP level provision, specialist environments and skilled adult support for much to most of the school day. What happens when that provision isn't there? So it's just the wording I'm querying. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I respond to that, and then Martin might want to chip in. So I think this is about, in that core school delivery, you will have those specialist adults. So you'll have those ratios, and that will be very clear. This is about a group of children whose needs are more severe and who might need that for much of all of the day. So you're absolutely right. We're not saying there's periods of time when these children won't need. So it's cumulative. So the all complex needs builds upon the specialist support that would be in place with that tier below. Does that help? Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Councillor Smith, please.
Sorry, thank you, Chairman. My question's around the band system being transferred into 3 bands, basically. Will there be assurance that no one will be missed out? Because if you're on the bottom band at the moment, you're only just in it. Will it affect you going into a band 3? And also, what will be the scale of the changeover? And also, the SEMH pupils, how's it going to affect them? Because surely you can't just fit them into one band. Surely they go over 2 or even 3 band areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith, for your questions. So, breaking it down in terms of the current banding system and how they'd be transitioned over onto the new banding system, the SEND team and the schools will be meeting and working through that. On the A's and B's, we've committed with the special schools, and you'll have seen this as part of the consultation responses, is to go in and just review those A's and B's categories and just double check. It's also supported by the 5% tolerance to accept that 5% of those children may well be on the wrong category. That'll then go into the usual system then of an annual review process to double check that they're on the right category. On top of that, every autumn, new EHCP children who've gone into the SEND system, they are moderated as well to make sure on arrival, this is what we thought, this is what we know, this is what we assumed. We double check that those children are in the right banding system as well. I think in the future, it's likely what we'll see, and we've already seen a number of these cases, where category A's and B's, band A's and B's, the core delivery as we would call it, they may well be the sorts of children who might benefit and thrive even further in the mainstream hubs. And so over time, it's probably, as the system evolves and changes, we will see those children educated in different places through the transition protocol. In terms of SEMH, you're absolutely right to spot the SEMH. We've still got 3 SEMH schools in Lincolnshire. What's really interesting, though, under the old system, there was a lot of debate around which band, but our SEMH schools in Lincolnshire, actually, all the children are on the same band and the same value. So they've been very used to a steady system, and actually that was one of their examples of, because we know that all of the children are band C, and we know that that's the amount we'll always get, we develop our provision to that, we budget to that, we set the staffing structure, and they're still able to look at exceptional funding as and when required. But one of the points I was going to make under the old system, there was a lot of debate about which band, but sometimes it was only £175 difference between the band, but it may have cost the school and the local authority £1,000, £2,000 in time and administration, and that's why we want to remove that kind of level of processing that doesn't really make that much of a difference to the children. The additional resource, the ability for settings to meet need, makes the difference for children in those settings. Does that cover all of your questions, Councillor Smith?
Can you put your mic on, please, Councillor Smith?
Sorry. What is going to be the timescale of the changeover? Thank you.
Yep. So in terms of so we've transitioned the existing bands into the new banding framework. So that's already been done, and that's based on the moderated information coming through from annual reviews, the latest moderation process that took place. So that has essentially determined the indicative school budgets for 26-27. What work Martin's referring to is those exceptional funding cases. So we've certainly tightened that up with this new policy arrangement. We've also included the now widened enhanced band. So one expects a number of those, particularly those that require permanence in terms of that exceptional funding, probably will fall into that enhanced band. Or actually, if they're medical, severe medically related, then actually there may still be a requirement for enhanced as well as exceptional. But so we'll be going through that case by case, caseworker with the school. That was something the working group was really insistent on, and it's right that we need to get this right in this sense, because it does have a financial impact amongst the schools. So that is a process that we'll be working through and are working through to try and finalise the budgets for 26-27. So it is very much, once a decision is made, the updates in terms of funding will flow into the schools for this financial year to respond to their needs. As I've explained, in terms of all schools are gaining from this, but also there is that minimum funding guarantee if there were to be future changes that are in place that basically puts a limit in that no school can lose the per place value.
Thank you. Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's regarding the funding that Councillor Davies touched on. If the school doesn't fit the criteria and they don't get any funding, what are the options? Is there somewhere else they can get funding from, or is that it? Thank you.
Yeah, so the local authority determines the overall funding arrangements for our schools. So our state-led schools, both maintained and academies. So as part of our process, local authorities place in special schools, and we agree with them annually their place numbers, typically their school capacity, and also in terms of the levels of needs and support that they have. So the majority of the funding, or most of the funding, comes through the local authority system, and that's why working with the sector is really key to ensure that there is that financial sustainability. Other local authorities can place children in our provision, and they do, and I know that's something that when we was building the significant growth, was very keen that actually our capital investment is supporting our Lincolnshire children, and that's something we're really pushing for. So ensuring that there's the right level of funding going in there, hopefully then gives them the confidence that they'll be accepting Lincolnshire children in its entirety. So that's the goal. But yes, in terms of funding, majority of the funding comes via the local authority, and then there's supplementary funding such as pupil premium and other things that the department have as a standard for across all sector schools.
Thank you very much. Councillor Davies, did you want to come back?
Yeah, two very quick ones, if I may. Thank you. I think you spoke about this, Mark, when you talked about that you were starting to look at modelling. I just wondered whether more broadly any modelling had been done on kind of staffing levels, space for kind of 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road based on the new funding formula.
So at the moment, in terms of we've obviously had conversations with schools probably over the last year or so where there's potentially the opportunities for increase in numbers. But often the stumbling block has been, okay, what's the funding? And particularly on that economies of scale sort of point that was being raised to us by some of the schools in terms of it being financially worthwhile and giving them that financial certainty. So I think what one hopes that the formula will do will enable them conversations to be more productive. And so we can sort of scope out potentially what the art of the possible is in terms of those numbers. We have had some opportunities in Gainsborough recently, so we're as part of sort of the building capital funding in terms of SEND, and we're hoping that that will hopefully accelerate. But it's something, I think, from my perspective, it's at the early stages. I think get the formula in place, hopefully those conversations can start. But in terms of the sector, they are open to this, and even open to satellite sites and other things as well, which again offers another tiered level of support, local provision to try and mitigate those placements into the independent sector. So yeah, hopefully this is something we can progress and provide an update on.
Thank you. That sounds eminently sensible. And just my final question is, has this been subject to any kind of independent validation or testing or benchmark with any kind of national bodies or anything like that?
Just initially, so I have reached out to a number of local authorities in terms of understanding what their formula is. Obviously, as part of any work, you try and learn from others. I think we've seen a bit of a mixed picture in terms of how they build it up, but obviously I've been very keen, like the old formula or the existing formula, you build it up from the core, like a zero-based budget. That way it can be adaptable as things change, and that's something that we've done. We've built it up based on the core. The core is essentially the staffing arrangements, and we feel we've come to a good position, albeit obviously, as you'll see from the consultation responses, some challenges within that, and I think this is something where we just need to keep a watching brief on that. But ultimately, it's about how the formula can deliver fair funding, and then it's up to the schools to determine how they actually deploy the resources. So this is a formula about distributing monies fairly and transparently. Schools will obviously have the priorities and the decision-making powers in terms of how they actually spend the monies. But I feel that we've done enough in this area. We've looked at benchmarking, what information is available, circa between sort of 25,000 and above in terms of average per place rates. We're ranging from 20 to 30, and that's mainly down to the level of needs that schools are supporting in terms of the pupils. But that's something is trying to, I think, building it up on the basics of the core infrastructure, I think has been a really key exercise for us, and for that longevity of the formula. But clearly we'll keep it under review, and we'll obviously monitor school balances as well, and in the future years as well, to make sure we have it that sweet spot.
Thank you very much. Councillor Overton, please.
Thank you very much. It sounds like a huge amount of work and a lot of engagement with the schools that's been very useful. When you think about the reorganisation of local government funding as a whole, you know, it's a very tough call. So I think setting that no school was going to lose at the outset is obviously key to getting their engagement in it and creating a right atmosphere. But I think on page 83 it does talk about the additional costs that are going to be required, I think, and that's, if I understand it correctly, and excuse me if I don't, but I think it says that it's going to be 3 million increase across the sector following the adoption of a ceiling gain and scaling, plus a further 0.4 for the band D tolerance correction. So I wonder if you could explain to me a little bit, if we're already so much in deficit, which you mentioned, and then this is an increase in costs. I'm not quite sure, how are we going to manage that? Thank you.
I think Heather would like to. Oh, Martin, Heather, I'll let you fight it out.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Martin.
Thank you, Heather, for conceding. In terms of, I'll pick off the high needs block. So Lincolnshire is one of the very last remaining local authorities to actually go into a deficit on the high needs block. So we've done really positive transformational activity to enable that to happen. Nationally, the high needs deficit's running at about £6.4 billion, and so that's a significant sum. In terms of managing the kind of transition, whether it's LGR or SEND reforms, and I'll keep mentioning SEND reforms because if colleagues were able to attend the briefing session the other day, we were able to talk about what it might look like by 2029 and up through to 2034. Essentially, we will have annual deficit plans to be able to submit to the DFE to look for a sustainability grant, and we're just in the process of doing that at the moment with our SEND reform plan, and that will support us. We will also be watching and waiting to see how new services through the reforms impact. So there's something called the Expert at Hand service that should be able to mitigate, manage and meet demand. And what I would also say is, in terms of the costing, that £3 million additional cost, that's additional funding that's going through to the special school cohort that's over 2,500 pupils. If I say we struggle to get that achieved and we end up having to get another 40 INMS, independent school placements, that will cost us over £3 million. So there's something in strategically in benefiting meeting needs of 2,500 pupils, or running the risk of needing additional independent non-maintained school spaces that will cost multiple millions of pounds. Does that cover everything?
So fundamentally, you expect a deficit like everywhere else, and then we ask the government to fill it.
So, we have got a structural deficit. We're expecting it to increase as a result of this decision, but not increase as much as it would if we don't make this decision. In terms of expecting the government to fill it, I think we're really clear that the reason we have a structural deficit is because of the national system. And the way in which the national system is organised. And I think that's been acknowledged by the government, and that's why the SEND reforms are coming in. It's also been acknowledged by the government that they should be taking away that debt that's on local councils. Their plan is to remove 90% of that debt for councils that submit this plan successfully, and Martin's team are working really hard to submit this plan successfully. But, you know, we would argue and have argued it should be 100%. You know, there's very little that you as a council can do, and decisions we can put before you that can make a difference to that without you not meeting the needs of children with SEND. So this is absolutely going to increase our deficit, but to not do it would increase your deficit more. We're in a no-win in the deficit, but a win for children and young people with SEND, hopefully.
Right, thank you very much. And if I just ask a smaller issue, is about the 20 to 30,000 for the extra, and these are probably young people who need 24 hours one-to-one care. So presumably in the school, is that what it is? So that will be an extra member of staff required for that child.
So as Mark said earlier, this is the funding formula, and we've looked at the schools support children in different ways. It's not 24-hour for these children are in school days, and many of them won't have a one-to-one. It'll be how the school's organised. Some of them will have a one-to-one. Some of them will have support within the classroom, but that will be for the school and the EHCP. And what's recorded in there. So that will be in a variety of ways, as is current.
I think Mark wanted to come in there, please.
Yeah, just to add, in terms of the ratios is something that we did discuss at the working groups. For example, the all complex needs, the 2-to-1 ratio, recognising those needs, and the enhanced need was actually, the way the formula is built up, it is based on a 1-to-1. In terms of for the funding, noting the risks associated with that, but clearly it's up to the school to determine how they actually deploy that. And also just on the increase in the overall costs, although there is that commitment from the Department for Education about funding the deficits up to that 90%, they've not committed in terms of what percentage in the future years, but they are fully committed to supporting local authorities. But they've made it very clear that it's not a unlimited part, but also there's the expectations to manage it locally. So we still need to manage our demand, and this is our way of, although it's an increase in cost, it's part of a strategy to try and manage and alleviate the overall scale of spending.
Thank you. It does look like a good effort, I must say, a good scheme. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments anyone would like to make? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your questions and comments, and it's good scrutiny again. Thank you, everyone. I propose that the committee has considered the report to the Executive Councillor for Children's Services and acknowledges the report's recommendations to the Executive Councillor. Can I please have a seconder? Councillor Smith, thank you. A summary of our comments, as captured by the Senior Scrutiny Officer, will be shared with the Executive Councillor for her consideration. We will now vote on this item. All those in favour, please. I think we have unanimous again. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's carried. Item 8 then, please, on the agenda. Donington Corley Academy Single Classroom Extension. This item is on pages 103 to 118 of the agenda pack and is for pre-decision scrutiny. The committee is being consulted on proposals to construct a new single classroom block at Donington Corley Academy. The report is due for consideration by the Executive Council for Children's Services and the Executive Council for Resources between the 12th and the 19th of June 2026. All comments from the committee will be reported to the Executive Councillors prior to their decision. The actions required by the committee are to consider the attached report and to acknowledge the report's recommendations to the Executive Councillor for Children's Services and the Executive Councillor for Resources as set out in the report. Just to remind the committee that Appendix B is exempt. If the committee wishes to discuss this appendix, we will need to vote to move into exempt session. Can we please have questions and comments on the open report and Appendix A first? And if there are any questions on or comments on Appendix B, can we please leave them until after we have voted to go into exempt session? The report will be presented by Dave Pennington, Head of Capital Projects and Professional Services. We also have Ali Toyne, Senior Project Manager, Corporate Property, in attendance to help answer any questions. Over to you, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. This report is perhaps a change of pace compared to everything else that you've heard this morning, this afternoon as well. So I will keep my comments and my presentation accordingly relatively brief and just pick out the salient points. Just to give you a bit of context, when we develop these capital projects in collaboration with Children's Services, we very much work hand in glove with them. And when it comes to basic need, it is based on population data and the growth projected in areas. So schemes like this, where we're expanding a school, it is working with the population data and Children's Services. I'd just like to point out that actually there is a bit of a mistake in paragraph 1.3. The paragraph says that population data, including birth data supported by Lincolnshire County Council's pupil projections, indicates a long-term requirement for more than 20 additional statutory school-age places within the area. That 20 should be a 10. I take responsibility for that mistake and we will correct that. But what that equates to is 10 additional places each year over 5 years. So you're actually increasing the capacity by 50. So to give a bit more context on this project as well, we actually expanded this school with a project previously in 2020, through that completed in 2021. What that scheme did is it provided 2 classrooms, some toilets and works, and what that allowed us to do, again, working with Children's Services and thinking ahead, was actually put in some of the infrastructure that's required for this project I'm discussing with you today. So what you're actually looking at here is a second phase of work that we already started in 2020. So what that means is that we're only providing today what is absolutely necessary for that school to provide the extra 1 classroom extension. And we actually thought ahead in 2020. So things like the electricity connection, the toilets that would have been provided for this scheme that were needed, have actually already been provided as part of the previous scheme. So this is literally a box that we are bolting on to the side of the school. We also thought ahead in terms of the biodiversity net gain and left the area that's being developed as a hard standing, which keeps the costs down for this project as well. So what we're actually doing is we're only providing what's absolutely necessary for the expansion of the school by 10 places on the published admissions number. There's not an awful lot for me to say other than that, so I welcome any questions from the committee.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you. Do we have any questions, please? Councillor Daesh, please.
Thank you. Just is there going to be a service schedule and the maintenance for the property when it's finished?
Thank you, Councillor Daesh. Yes, at the end of every project, we hand over to the school what's called operation and maintenance manuals. And what those do is they quite clearly describe what maintenance activities the school need to undertake to ensure that that classroom is maintained for the foreseeable future. And that's quite a thorough process that we undertake with the school. So Ali, who is my senior project manager, will be going through with some of our technical advisors with the school at the end of the project, making it quite clear their maintenance responsibilities. And just again, to be absolutely perfectly clear, this is an academy trust, so the maintenance liabilities do rest with them, and they take all the liabilities for that classroom moving forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Davies, please.
Thank you. You've answered my first question already about the PAN numbers, so thank you for that. Secondly, I think it was Councillor Carey in a previous scrutiny meeting talked about the Ancaster issue, and I know you have done as well, Chair. And I just wondered what's in place to prevent, dare I say, 3 or 4 months after this classroom opening, it having to be closed.
Thank you very much, Councillor Davies, for the question. So in terms of, we have a very robust design process that we work through, and there is a lot of technical oversight and scrutiny. So to ensure, firstly, on a scheme like this, we have a high level of assurance that what we're building is the right standard. We have what are called clerks of works who go out on site and monitor the progress at intermittent periods and check that the quality is in accordance with the design standards. So from the design process through to construction, there's a very thorough oversight process that we have in place. Because this is an academy trust, the maintenance liabilities do rest with them. So effectively, once we finish the project, we hand over what's called collateral warranties, and they take full responsibility for the maintenance of that classroom and the liabilities associated with that. But during the design and the construction process, we have a very, very thorough and rigorous set of standards that we apply to ensure that Ancaster never happens again.
That's reassuring. Thank you very much, because last time I think we were all very concerned about that. Thank you. Councillor Carey, please.
Okay, thank you. Yes, does this single extension for the classroom further proof any increase in demand? Will there be any more further on from this, as it's only for 10 children? Will there be further, or is this what you think would be the last of extensions?
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Carey. So it's for 10 children per year. So it'll be 50 children by the time they've moved through the years. This gives the school space to have an extra 50 children. When we talk about 10, it's on the admissions number. And so far, our trajectory planning and everything we do says that's what we'll need, and that will be sufficient for this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to touch back on the maintenance questions, if I may. Obviously, people are very aware that maintenance is well and truly a huge priority in my mind. It hasn't been the direction of travel for quite a significant amount of time, and we've got great examples of that, the castle, windmills, schools. So I just wanted to clarify that it is something that I've asked to work with Dave on and Martin in terms of how we can have a far more robust maintenance programme within schools and what that will look like, because it's all very well passing responsibility on, but inevitably the liability when it comes to huge repairs like Ancaster, as Councillor Davis mentioned, that falls back on the local authority. So we've got to get to a point where we need to ensure more oversight to ensure that schools are maintaining our assets so that we don't end up with another catastrophic mistake that we've had previously across our asset programme. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Oliver, for those comments. Also, just from myself, the previous extension, they had the previous classroom 2 years ago. Is this being built in the same, is it the same type of build? And how's that doing?
Thanks, Chairman. Yes, so we've replicated the single class extension that we are delivering replicates the two-class extension that was delivered in 2021. So through the design process, we're using the same materials, the same specification in terms of buildability, the construction. It completely mirrors the two-class extension, so when it bolts on, it's all uniformed and looks exactly the same and will operate exactly the same as the last two classes.
And how's that standing up to weather and whatever else, you know?
We've had no reports that I'm aware of that there's been any damage, any maintenance issues. It's, yes, still standing and is running and operating as we would expect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you very much. I do have a question for the closed session, so I'll leave that until then. Just wanted to make sure, so the expansion of the published admission numbers from 120 to 130, so it only requires this classroom and doesn't require any extension to the hall or any other resources as part of the school?
Yeah, oh, my turn, Martin. So usually within a secondary school, what it's about is about adding that space so that you can do some lessons in there, you can move children around. So very often one classroom can allow you to do that kind of expansion. So yeah, absolutely, this will meet the need. We don't need anything else additional.
Thank you. Councillor Overton, please.
Thank you. I get confused with short by 10 places, and this will provide 50 places over 5 years. But I think what I'm thinking is that if you're short by 10 places, presumably they're not all in the same year, or are they? So if you build a classroom, how does that work? Because some will be, you know, you'll be two spare in this room and 2 spaces in that room, and logistically, that's quite hard to visualise.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good question, Councillor Overton. So what happens is, and as you point out and know, that schools are very different in terms of their delivery. You have some classes larger than others, and there's ebbs and flows. What happens is, in this piece of work, the trajectory data around birth rates and coming through the primary schools and what that trajectory is saying really usually maps out quite well to what we know will happen in secondary. When we say 10 places per additional year, obviously that adds 50 spaces overall to the capacity of the school. But what we do in the background of that with the school is a curriculum analysis. So, okay, this is, when you've got this many children, how many spaces have you got for English, mathematics, science, specific sciences, physical education? They do that analysis, and as a result of that, it might say, if you put one classroom over here, and reorganise the 4 classrooms around it into an English department, for example, and move this over here, it then enables the functionality of the school to cover curriculum expectation and time expectations, and as well as the right kind of facilities to deliver the lessons, as it were.
That's great. So you've looked at that, and I really appreciate that. That does make sense. Thinking about this school rather than another school, you know, this is 10 places short. Have we picked this one because it's in the worst, you know, the biggest shortage of space, or, you know, is it the most needy case? Why this school? Thank you.
I'll go for it. So this is one example within the programme of works, and it comes through our strategy of schools. So I think you will remember from one of the scrutiny committees over time, there's a strategy with blocks of schools and activities in it with forecasted data of when these places would be needed. We don't tend to build spaces unless they are needed fairly imminently, because you don't want to create empty provision. And so the programme of works will take place when we think those spaces are going to come online and be required. Some will be in 2 years, some will be in 3 years. This just happens to be one programme that's live and ready to be delivered.
Councillor Overton, I'm conscious that you're covering for Councillor Cleaver, so this committee has a full sufficiency plan. So this is not that the school has come forward and said, I need more space. The council does the planning. The council says, in that area I need this, in that area I need this, and it's a really complex piece of work, and we bring that through committee. And then we work with the schools to say, well, actually, ideally this school, but actually it's reached its maximum capacity, so we might have to do this school. We work with school transport in Nicole's team to look at where's the best place to put. We look at parental preference, look at a whole range of things, and then we'll settle on the school. So it isn't that the school says, I would like 10 more places. And we had an interesting one last time where we were building a drama block. And you think, why would the council be building a drama block? Well, that allowed the curriculum reorganisation for us to place significantly more children in the school. So what we build is about how that reorganisation happens, but how we plan that comes through the committee and is done much more holistically. It's not an individual school asking us to expand them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you, Chair. My first question was regarding the 20 additional places, so thank you for clarifying that. Over the 50 places that you're going to be doing, was that going to be like every year going in the 10 places, which I understand fully? How long before we would need another extension? Would it be at the end of the 50 or would it be further down the field? And what is the total capacity that school could ever have? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I haven't got the answers on the specifics of how far could we keep expanding. It'll depend on the site. That's as much as we need in this area on our current longer term planning. So on our longer term planning, that's what we need. And again, as we come, every year we refresh our planning and it will say where in the county we need to do expansion. So it's something that we plan really carefully over time. I don't know what the maximum this school could ever be. But I do know this is enough for the foreseeable future.
Thank you. So how long before we would need another extension to that? And you know, you say it's a long-term plan. How far in the future is the long-term plan? Is it 5 years, 10 years? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Brooks. So I think strategically, I won't mention the specifics around the school because every locality and postcode area has a different trajectory, so I'll keep it strategic. What we do know in terms of requiring further extensions in the next 5, 10, 15 years, that is going to change in terms of demand because the birth rates are in decline. So year 11 approximately is around 8,500, 9,000 in Lincolnshire, so that's 16-year-olds. You've got about 8,500 young people, but in the reception age, what coming into the education system, it's approximately 6,000. So the population is reducing. So on that question of when would you need to extend the secondary school, generally we probably won't because the year 7 will be in decline, but that's subject to every postcode area and what's happening in a locality. So can't confirm when it would be expanded or not, but would just say that's kind of the strategic trajectory for it.
Thank you very much. Are there any more questions on Appendix A, please? No, okay. Are there any questions to be had from Appendix B? If so, we need to go into closed session. Yes, okay, we will have to go into closed. Sorry. I propose the following motion then, that under section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public and press be excluded from the meeting for Appendix B of the agenda item 8 on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of the Schedule 12A of the Act. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Daesh. Thank you. Please raise your hands. Those against, any abstentions? No, we're fine. Thank you. So we're agreed on that. We're all going to go into a closed session. Thank you very much. and the stream is live again. I propose that the committee has considered the report to the Executive Councillor for Children's Services and the Executive Councillor for Resources and acknowledges the report's recommendations to the Executive Councillors. Can I please have a seconder? Councillor Robinson, thank you. A summary of our comments as captured by the Senior Scrutiny Officer will be shared with the Executive Councillors for their consideration. We will now vote on this item, please. All those in favour? I believe that's unanimous again. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Right, item 9, Lloyd's Tour of Britain. I keep wanting to say Tour de France. Maybe I should call it Tour de Lincolnshire. This item is on pages 119 to 168 of the agenda pack and is for pre-decision scrutiny. The committee is being consulted on proposals for the Council to act as a host authority for stage 1 of the 2026 Tour of Britain. The report is due for consideration by the Executive Councillor for Children's Services between the 8th and the 12th of June 2026. All comments from the committee will be reported to the Executive Councillor prior to her decision. The actions required by the committee are to consider the attached report and to acknowledge the report's recommendations to the Executive Councillor for Children's Services as set out in the report. And we were going to start with Nicola Hilton, who's Assistant Director of Deputy and Director Deputy of Place. Thank you, Nicola. And then handed over to Adam Round, who is Head of Design Service for Highways. Thank you, Nicola.
Thank you, Chair, but it is still Nicole.
My apologies. I do get that wrong every time, don't I?
It's a little thing we do.
Sorry, it's important to get your name right. Sorry.
No problem at all. Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon, committee. So hosting the stage 1 of the 2026 Lloyd's Tour of Britain represents a discretionary but strategically significant opportunity for the Council. While the event carries financial cost, operational complexity and visible disruption, independent evidence demonstrates that the economic and reputational and social returns are substantial. British Cycling is keen for host areas to receive significant media coverage during the race and will ask for details of landmarks and route highlights that can be shared with commentators during the event, offering Lincolnshire valuable international exposure. British Cycling will also work closely with LCC teams, including schools, active travel and public health, as well as partner organisations and businesses to maximise the publicity and wider benefits of the event bring to Lincolnshire. It's important to recognise that this comes at the end of another packed agenda for culture that starts in Easter with the graduations, that moves to concerts, then moves to musical theatre, steampunk in the August bank holiday, and then the Tour of Britain would be the finale before we head into castle illuminations, and I'll be the first person to mention Christmas. There's also rumour of a sighted dragon that may or may not be accompanying a certain tapestry that will be at the British Museum in the autumn. I can say no more. Recall and recognition is a powerful, recognised marketing tool, and in Lincolnshire and in culture we have a rich history, from the hosting of the Poppies to Doomsday to the Cycle Grand Prix to the concerts at the Castle, and more recently the celebration of Lincoln City's football club promotion. The British Museum is also highlighting Lincoln Castle in its promotion of the Bayeux Tapestry, it being the Norman castle that represented the initial subjugation of Lincolnshire. On balance and subject to appropriate governance, risk management and partner coordination, the benefits of this, considered sufficiently justify proceeding as a host authority. And with that, I'll hand over to Adam for the full details.
Yep, thank you, Nicole. Stole my thunder there. I mean, we can start with the Tour of Britain, but I'm sure we can go on to the Tour de France if everything goes well. So, yes, indeed. Delivery of the event will be logistically complex, requiring early commitment from the council, political backing and cross-council coordination. The event would take place immediately after the Lincoln Steampunk Festival, as mentioned, creating both opportunities and risks around city centre logistics. A decision must proceed to be taken with a clear understanding that this is a discretionary, high-level event with material, financial exposure and visible service disruption, particularly in Lincoln. There will be national live broadcast and extensive digital coverage of the event, which will enable large-scale promotion for Lincoln's cultural and tourist assets. This could facilitate raising the civic profile for Lincoln Castle and the historic Uphill area. The national and international exposure would otherwise be extremely costly to secure through traditional marketing. Additionally, in reference to the evidence provided from Nottinghamshire County Council as previous hosting authorities and British cycling events, the event can deliver multi-million-pound economic impact. Please see the appendices for more detail on that. Delivery of the event strongly aligns with the active travel, sport, tourism and placemaking agendas within Lincolnshire County Council. It will encourage visitors and local engagement and provide opportunities to generate positive public sentiment. There is also potential to develop community engagement with schools, clubs and businesses through the event, both from a place and public health perspective and to deliver holistic benefits to the public. I think at this point I'm more than happy to take questions, really. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Oops, who have we got first? Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Nicole and Adam, for that report. This is absolutely fantastic, isn't it? I absolutely love it. I understand that the route's already been sort of chosen, but if they do want to take a detour, you could head to Burley Marsh. We've got a hill called Cock Hill in Burley Marsh, which is in the Doomsday Book. You can head straight to Skegness, get yourself an ice cream, then come back out through Croft and stop at the children's play area. But no, seriously, I think this is absolutely fantastic for Lincolnshire. The more things we can get like this will absolutely benefit all of our residents. So I'm well for this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Oops. Councillor Rowe, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I do have problems with this, so hopefully this scrutiny here will help me decide which way we want to go. I've got 4 questions, so I'll give the first 2 now and come back later if they're not answered. I've read this several times, and unless I'm missing it, I can't see whether it says it's the men's tour, the women's tour, or both. I know it's meant to be, but I couldn't find where it is. I'm assuming it's the men's. Is that within the report, or am I just going blind?
Apologies, it is for the men's tour this year, yes.
Yeah, so probably that ought to be within what goes back. The other question is, what actions are being taken by officers to identify possible opportunities to enhance the lives of our cared for young people as per the last full council meeting? I appreciate that couldn't have been added to the report. It's not meant as a criticism, it's meant as a genuine question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Early discussions have taken place already. My colleagues in Children's Services, Tara and I, have already begun to discuss what opportunities we have, particularly within the castle, which is going to be kind of quite a fundamental to hosting the event, about being able to get children, carers, parents actually there to be able to participate in some of the activities that will happen in and around that day. So early conversations, but it is something we're incredibly keen on being able to explore and enhance. Yeah, do you want to add that, Adam?
Yeah, just to add to that, as part of our preliminary discussions with other parts of the council, we're already talking to our active travel team, our public health team, and the fostering team have already been in touch and really keen to get involved as well. So we're already having those preliminary conversations, and British Cycling are back to back with those and very, very much on board.
Sounds great news. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davies, please.
Thank you. I've got a few points to make, and then I've got 4 questions, so I'll do 2 batches of 2 if that's okay with you, Chair. I have to say I have some reservations, like others on this, and I admire the ambition. Don't get me wrong, I'm the first to recognise the administration's U-turn on cycling and its now newfound support and enthusiasm for it. But the numbers here I do worry about. You know, having recently scrapped £133,000 from the Safer Families budget, now can find £450,000 for this, there has to be question marks about the value for money. I have to say I don't agree that the research that's accompanied in the pack is independent. In essence, it was paid for by British Cycling. It can hardly be a surprise that they tell us it's a wonderful thing. You know, the Nielsen analysis that was done of the Tour de France itself a few years ago concluded there is no economic uplift from these type of events. There's none from the Tour de France anywhere in France. It's unlikely that it's anything significantly different here. And that does recognise the hard truth that events like the Olympics, the World Cup we heard this week, tourist visitor numbers to the US have fallen as a result of the World Cup. The reality is these events do not bring the projected economic impact. And that's a tough pill to swallow, and it does sound counterintuitive. You mentioned Nottinghamshire County Council, of course. I think they only paid £250,000, and that's interesting. North Lincolnshire, again, have been involved with the tour of Yorkshire, I think it was. Again, the follow-up report they promised to do that demonstrated value hasn't been forthcoming. So I do agree with you that this is a discretionary, high-profile, and ultimately a political decision as to whether or not it's worthwhile. I have 4 questions, and my first 2. Firstly, and I'm conscious that colleagues are here, I barely mentioned the name of the Bailgate Guild, but I wonder what consultation has been done with the local businesses that are going to be impacted very heavily. I've spoken to one this morning who is impacted today because of other events that go on there. There is a question mark and a concern there. So I'd value your input and response on that. And also, you know, the numbers quoted in the report are from the national event. What independent, and I mean independent, analysis or expectation have we got about the benefit for Lincolnshire? And I don't mean asking I don't mean going out to a self-selected group of people and saying, do you think it's great? Yes. I mean, real solid evidence that this kind of stuff justifies a £500,000 spend.
Yeah, with regards to the consultation or engagement with local businesses and residents, obviously having referenced the packed agenda that we've already got over the summer, that is a continuing activity. Not least, we also have to recognise that we've got a Crown Court in the castle grounds. We've got the lawn at one of the gates. We've got the cathedral at the other end of the gates. So those conversations are ongoing, and our community are quite used now to our activities ramping up over the summer. It's important to say that this obviously is just the one-day event that after the bank holiday, so it just kind of slots in there quite nicely. But that hasn't been as yet a specific engagement just on this. It's more about that running programme. With regards to the independent economics, I'll take that on board, in that what we've provided you with obviously is that information about replication of exactly those events. I can provide you with details about what we estimate the income to be from our concert promotion, etc. as similar, but I do take on board what you're saying about something specific. We've gone to talk to other councils who have done these events. This is what they're telling us that impact has been. We can look into that and get more information on that.
Thank you. Well, you've got another 2, have you?
If that's okay.
We'll pop you in a little bit in a minute. All right.
Fantastic.
Thank you. We
Thanks,
won't
Chair.
forget you. We've got you down already, so we won't forget you. Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you very much. I think my question was already answered about the sort of concrete educational youth plans that we're just already looking at that. I'm slightly confused why Councillor Davies doesn't seem to think that events create tourism, people coming to the county and supporting the hotels, but that's I'd like to see the report of where that is, to be honest. But yeah, just wanted to sort of see where the educational and youth engagement sort of goes, and look for updates on that.
Oops. Yes, yeah.
Just to clarify, I wasn't saying that tourism doesn't bring economic benefit. What I'm saying is there's a huge amount of empirical evidence that one-off events and these contiguous events don't generate a net uplift. London Olympics is a classic example, the Paris one, and more recently. It sounds counterintuitive, I know, and you're welcome to look at me like I'm gone out. And I will, I'll send out the stuff. The one I'd recommend to you on the Tour de France is the Nielsen analysis done by the University of Denmark. Before they looked at whether or not the Tour de France should be extended into Denmark, you'll be aware it goes into places like Belgium and I think Holland already. The government commissioned a report to say, well, does it work? And the reality after a truly independent analysis was actually the Tour de France doesn't generate net uplift to those places it visits. The reason being is because while it does attract in a certain type of people, you know, for example, if there was a massive football match on in Mablethorpe Town Centre tomorrow, people from outside might go, oh, I probably won't go tomorrow because it's going to be really busy and the roads are chocker. So the net benefit is marginal. And the evidence from the Olympics, from the World Cup and from the Tour de France is there is no net benefit. Now, that's not to say we shouldn't do it. I'm not outright saying we shouldn't, but I think we've just got to be honest about why we're doing it, if that makes any sense.
Thank you, thank you. Councillor Overton, please.
Thanks. I almost forgotten what I was going to say now. It was an interesting discussion. I think I can see the map quite clearly, and I'm thinking the point I was going to make was that it's really important to work out how to get money out of people. I was really surprised to see that the Lincoln market had to close because it cost the council too much. You know, how can you have so many people coming through and not take a pound off each of them? You know, and I think this is one of the things that happens is that we don't, you know, I'm not sure that we focus sufficiently on actually helping people leave their money in the right box to make sure that it starts to cover itself. And I accept the points, but, you know, the cost of policing and all these things obviously do cost a lot, and we have to make sure that all those people actually leave money for us. Thank you.
Perhaps we should go out with a box each. Thank you. Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I fully understand my colleagues' concerns regarding these, like the income and all that sort of stuff. I get it. What I'd say is if Lincoln are worried about it or the businesses don't want it or Bailgate, come to Skeggy. We'll have it. We'll have it. I'll tell you, we'd love it. It's not always about the money. Sometimes it's about the advertising. The amount of impact that will have on national and international news will be great. So bring it to Skeg.
Yes, it's good to get to Lincolnshire or Lincoln on the map, really is. I know I've been in meetings away from Lincoln and people don't even know where it is, you know, so we need as much publicity, and I do hope that's happening as well, as much publicity as possible. Thank you. Councillor Brockaway, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I can see that this actually has got the potential to be a fantastic event. It's a national event, and I'm not going to vote against it. What I am thinking about for the moment is abstaining, which is something I do very rarely. And the reason is I don't feel as though I've got quite enough information to vote for. And the information I would need is, I can see all the business interest. I find it very interesting that we've got to pay them to have it here, which I think is a very interesting concept. We've got to pay them to actually come here. And I really like to know, with this 450,000, what work is the council doing to make sure that a substantial amount of that, or all, gets back into the council coffers? So if we're going to spend out, if you're saying it's an investment for society, for the businesses, etc., but this is the council and this is council money. So I would like to know what work do I have done or intend to do to make sure that the council coffers are not emptied by that amount of money, please. Thank you.
So what we can do is provide you with the detail of the breakdown of what that fee includes. Okay.
Will that be provided to us all, Nicole?
I
I'm happy
Oh,
to go over the
thank you,
specific
Adam.
items that fee would pay for. But not
Thank you,
the-
because it was a
the actual
question I was
financial
wanting
breakdown.
to know about as well. Thank you.
No, absolutely. So first of all, you quite rightly say we pay for British Cycling to come to Lincolnshire to host the event in Lincolnshire. That essentially covers their costs of coming here, which is the whole logistical setup of bringing that race to Lincolnshire. So that's 35 police motorcycles that ride around with a peloton. It's the broadcasting equipment. It's the commissaires. It's the officials that come from the governing body that goes with that. So that 450 includes for that initial host fee of that. On top of that, as host to the stage, it's incumbent upon us to provide the more fixed traffic management that we will have to erect in Lincoln around the closures of the final few loops. And then on top of that, there's the logistics that go with the hosting the stage. So the marshals, the police, first aid, things like the crowd barriers, toilets, waste collection for the event, and things like that. And then obviously all our comms costs, advertising, and the engagement costs that come out of that. In terms of our opportunity to get back, obviously there's that wider economic benefit, but we are talking to the City Council and other partners about potential partner contributions to help pay for this.
If I could also add to that, Councillor Brockway, before you come back. I think it is really important to understand that the advantages of it coming at the end of a really busy season for culture means that we can also use all of the existing infrastructure. So, for example, the university who are holding their graduations, they've really kindly are enabling us to use a lot of the structure that's already there, that's going to be in the castle. And our colleagues and partners in Steampunk have been incredibly accommodating as well, enabling us to kind of work around them and with the infrastructure. So officers are using all of the things that already there exist in order to kind of reduce our outlay rather than having to start from the very beginning.
Sorry, just to add to that as well, I should add that the stage that we're talking about is a Lincoln to Lincoln stage. So unlike lots of other stages of the Tour and of the Tour de France, which are point-to-point stages, we get kind of double the benefit because we get the start of the race and the attraction that draws to the crowd, but then also we get the finish of the race as well. And obviously, hopefully those people stay in Lincoln all day, spending money, and they're here for both the start and the finish. That's it.
Thank you. Have the other 5 legs been confirmed now then?
Yes, the other 5 legs have been agreed with those host authorities, but have not yet gone public because British Cycling want to make that as a one single announcement when all stages are have approval.
Thank you. Did you want to come back? Sorry.
Just ask for clarity, if I might. Lincoln to Lincoln I saw, but one day, I thought it was the 2nd to the 7th of September. I'm just not sure how it works, and the map only shows one direction. So how do they get back? Thank you.
Yeah, so the tour itself, I think it is 5 stages. Lincoln is the first stage, which will be Lincoln to Lincoln. I can't say what the other stages are yet because it's not gone public, and I don't want to jeopardise their positions. So it's the tour, the men's tour of Britain is 5 stages, split nationally, if you like, and then the ladies' tour is separate again.
So it's not so much round Britain, it's round Lincoln, then round somewhere else, are you saying? They come back the same day, is that right?
No, so our stage will be Lincoln to Lincoln. The second stage, they'll essentially jump on a coach, drive to another part of the country and race somewhere else the next stage, and then the same, doing that for each day, yeah.
Councillor Brockway, did you want to come back?
I did, Chairman. Thank you ever so much. Thank you for the explanations, but there's still a little bit more to ask about it. What I really want to know is what income it's going to bring into the council. Now, you mentioned the Steampunk Festival. Now, I'm part of that festival, so I have personal interest. And that is the biggest in Europe. They stay here for an entire weekend, and they spend a lot of money. And we don't give them 450,000. And in fact, when other counties wanted that festival, they were offering a lot of cash to get it from Lincoln, and we nearly lost it. I had to fight very hard to keep that here. And I'm just concerned that all of a sudden this money can be found when we are very short of the basic needs for, or even stopping a volunteer service. Councillor Davis has alluded to that. So I think there is a duty on us. I'm willing to support an event, but I want to know that everything is done to bring that money into this council. You need to have a business plan. What are we going to do to go out there to create money and generate money from this for this council instead of just facilitating us? We could do a lot between now and the time they come. Thank you, Chairman.
So thank you, Councillor Brockway. Just to clarify, we are not giving British Cycling £450,000. That is the cost to Lincolnshire County Council, estimated cost at this point of actually hosting it. Yes, you're absolutely right. That's why we have an events team. That's why we have specialists in the highways team in order to look for the most efficient route, as well as the route that's going to be the most scenic, and create that advertising. So what will sit behind there is every opportunity that Lincolnshire County Council officers can take in order to ensure that both this event is safe and enjoyable by everybody, but also that we have opportunities for that income generation. But that isn't the primary driver for the officers have been given.
Yes, please.
Thank you. That's really good to hear that you're thinking about income generation. What kind of things exactly are you thinking about to generate income for the council? Thank you.
I think Heather wants to come in there. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we know your point, Councillor Brockway. I think in terms of what we would be thinking about, so with the papers we've just had on foster caring, so if we can get our foster caring stands out, and we can get the crowds that are local, that come out to enjoy the event, and I was there at the last cycling event and saw that, then, and if we can get ourselves some foster carers from that, it would probably cover the cost of this very quickly. But I just want to be clear, that is not the business plan. We're going to take every opportunity we can of the increased numbers in Lincoln to make sure that we are promoting the things that we need to promote as a service. And I think that's really, really important. But I think in terms of the income, I think, you know, Nicole's been really clear that we're not expecting to offset this with a specific target of income into the council. This is about income into businesses. It's about providing something for communities. It's about income into the hotels and into the surrounding area. You're absolutely right. There isn't a target for income into the council. This is about growth within Lincolnshire rather than growth within the council. And I think we've noted Councillor Davies' comments as well around some concerns around the documentation that we've taken from national and our intelligence from other local councils. They're noted, understand.
Yes, Councillor Overton.
Sorry, just on, I would like to just support the points. I do think we should think about how we can actually bring money in to cover the costs, because that's why things don't come again. You know, we have the Christmas market, that's what happens. If the councils find that they can't afford it, it's just lost. But so, you know, I think it's really important to think about the councils. You know, we make a lot of money for other people, yes, but so we should also be making sure that the council thinks about how it's covering its costs. And your idea of the foster care is a great one. You know, if one of the target was, you know, get 2 more foster carers or something like that, that's a good target to put in the business plan. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I understand all of that. It's all noted. I guess in terms of how it's a target already, you know, and that comes through here. So we have that as a target. It's one way in which we would be looking to do that. But we know that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Daesh, please.
Thank you. What I would suggest is, have you looked at independent sponsorship from bigger companies outside of Lincolnshire as well as inside Lincolnshire?
So yes, that is part of the programme of consideration is looking at what potential sponsorship there is. But we are careful and minded that British Cycling obviously have already agreed for the sponsorship of this cycle race is by Lloyd's. So we need to be able to do that in collaboration and in agreement with, but it is certainly something that we're looking at, yes.
Yeah, I understand that, but what we're all trying to get at is offsetting how much it's all going to cost. It's a brilliant idea. I think it's well thought out, but it's the cost.
Thank you.
I think I understand exactly the points people are making. I guess the offsetting is within businesses in Lincolnshire, you know, that so I don't think as officers we can sit here and say we can generate income to offset that. I don't think that's the idea. I think the idea is around running this event, high profile event, and the impact it has on Lincolnshire, which is Lincoln, which is written within explained within these documents. And I understand, and we'll do everything we can along that route. We'll work cross-directorate to ensure that we're promoting the services, as I say, looking to get more foster carers, more adopters, or, you know, children's services will take those opportunities very much like we do with the Lincolnshire show. And that's something that we will maximise and we can commit to.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, Adam?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I suppose, follow that up with a Birdman example of the work that we're doing to really minimise those costs as much as we can. So the 450 figure is essentially based on the discussions we've had with British Cycling and previous hosts to give us that right ballpark, because we are in such an early stage. But what we have done, as an example from a highways point of view, in other authorities, they've used a proportion of that figure to bring parts of the highway up to scratch to allow that race. What we've done in advance of any decision, but with British Cycling, is look at those potential routes, and having had those discussions between the both of us, get to a point where they get a route that works for their race, but also doesn't stitch us up in terms of having to go and to do loads of highways maintenance where we wouldn't already be doing some highways maintenance. So that's the position we've got at. British Cycling rode the Lincoln Stage route on Wednesday this week. Returned for a call with myself. Very happy to report that at no point on that stage does any highways maintenance need to do to enable them to host that race. There's some minor works that we need to make the road safe, but there's absolutely nothing we need to do from a maintenance point of view. So we're taking those sort of preemptive actions to make sure that we're not already setting ourselves up to spend some of that money before we even have to.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm a bit disappointed now. I was going to get you to come through North Hykeham across one or two of our roads and we could have got the potholes sorted. So my understanding is 450,000 is our estimate of what we're paying the cycle people plus other costs. So I'm assuming that's we're going to have to pay the police for what they do. Sorry, let me just... That 450... I understand is an estimate, but what sort of leeway are you prepared to accept on that, so as we don't come back to you and say you said 450? I'll have another question when you've answered that one. Thank you.
Yeah. So as I said, the 450 includes the hosting fee to British Cycling, which includes the payment to the police for the mobile escort that goes with the peloton. It will also include a payment that we will have to make for local closures, or the traffic management around those local closures. There will be an application we will have to make to the police for a lift and tow facility on that course, just on the final sort of mile or so of the course, to make sure that that is safe. Sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Sorry, it was about... have you got some wriggle room you're going to build into all that 450, or is 450 already got the wriggle room?
So, Councillor Rowe, I think it's a really important question. When this was first discussed and the option came to us, that 450,000 is a ceiling. That's absolutely the top. Where we've done that started with very, very broad estimates of what we considered we would need to cover from kind of all of the safety, all of the highways that Adam's just described. But yes, it is a ceiling and a maximum of that 450. So because nothing has been decided yet, there is a potential that things will actually reduce in cost as we confirm what that specific route is going to be, exactly how many people are going to be required, what contributions we can get from other councils, for example. So yeah, it's really clear. It's a very good question. 450 is the maximum that we were given as the ceiling.
That's great, thank you. As far as consultations are involved, we obviously got to speak to our local police force. Have we done that yet? Have we had a response? Who else do we speak to? Do we speak to the NHS, to the hospitals? We've got events on before this, so they could be just a touch busy. Do we check into British Rail to make sure that they're not digging up the rail, and other transport questions? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're preliminary stage setting up a joint safety advisory group that essentially covers the whole of the race. So obviously you'll be aware we have that for different areas in the county. For this event, because the route goes through various areas that those SAGs cover, we'll essentially come together and combine and have one SAG for the event. But yeah, obviously whenever we do an event in the city or in the county, whenever we've got those road closures on, there's a huge amount of consultation that goes on with emergency services, hospitals, cemeteries, like I say, Network Rail, for example. In fact, the course does go over, I think, 2 level crossings on stage 1, and Network Rail have already, British Cycling have already been in discussions with Network Rail about how they operate that race safely over those level crossings. So yeah, and that, I suppose, to give you a bit of confidence with me being a bit of an outsider in here with my highways hat on, that kind of sits within our normal wheelhouse, I guess. So yeah.
Thank you.
And just to provide some reassurance, hospitals and cemeteries probably gives the wrong context for what should be a joyous event. So as part of the safety advisory group, that won't be the priority for us.
I'm glad you clarified that. It would be if I was on a bike. Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to emphasise that yes, these events do make money, and I've seen it when I used to work part-time at a fish and chip shop in Cleethorpes. When Grimsby Town was playing, we knew that there was going to be business coming, and it really pushed revenue to, for that day, and it meant that, we knew that we got more staff on, more jobs were on that day to make sure that we were coping with that amount of footfall. So I'd have to disagree. I'd love Mablethorpe to have a big football match like that and try and get those revenues. I thank Councillor Davey to promote that. And I'd like to second what Jimmy Brooks was saying about bringing it to Skegness. Let's extend it to Mablethorpe.
We'll have to see what we can do about that. Thank you. Councillor Davies, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just one point and then a couple of questions, if I may. I suspect the hosting agreement you'll have with the British Cycling Association will specifically prohibit you sourcing sub-sponsors from other companies. I don't know that, but I would imagine it would be very unlikely they'd allow you to put up advertising hoardings independent of them. So while I appreciate what colleagues are saying about generating revenue to fund this, I think the reality is, other than the local authorities, that probably won't be possible. I think one thing is clear. I think we need some more detail about this, and I think Councillor Brockway's suggestion, and I think I'll probably back her up on that, on abstaining on this, is the right one. I'd really like to see what the breakdown of this 450 looks like, and in particular, I'd like to know what is the hosting fee that we have to pay, aside from the costs. What's the actual hosting fee that we have to pay across to British Cycling? And my second question, just to run on very quickly, is, in a year's time, what is the measurement for success for this type of high-profile event?
Yeah, certainly happy to provide a breakdown of that 450 as that does get developed. As we mentioned earlier, we're very, very early stages on this. Obviously, a decision hasn't been made, so we're not in a position to firm up those figures as yet, because we don't have those firm figures. I can't discuss the hosting fee unless we go exempt session.
So I think what we would say about the hosting fee is that that would fall into the commercially sensitive. And as Adam has said, nothing has been finalised yet. But as with all promoters, that they would expect confidentiality, commercially sensitive in that space. so not for a public scrutiny. With regards to legacy, I think that's a really important question for us, and I think where we're beginning to develop with partners active travel and walking and cycling, and being able to kind of understand whether from our local groups and local communities about an increase in participation in cycling. It would be really important to capture the information from local businesses, because let's not forget, if they don't get the footfall from these events and exhibitions, then potentially they lose business, potentially they close, and then actually we lose the rates from those businesses. So I think working on what that legacy looks like is also really important, and something that we're only in the early stages of beginning to develop.
Thank you. Any more questions, please, from anybody? Okay. I think we've done reasonably good scrutiny there. There's obviously some more questions that need to be forthcoming for us to understand. Thank you. I'd like propose that the committee has considered the report to the Executive Council for Children's Services and acknowledges the report's recommendations to Executive Councillor. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Robinson. A summary of our comments, as captured by the Senior Scrutiny Officer, will be shared with the Executive Council for consideration. I think we're all kind of on the same page. This is an exciting project that's been put in our lap, if you like. It's always good to advertise Lincolnshire, but there's a few more questions to be sorted out, and we realise that some you can't answer us just yet, some because of confidentiality as well. So we now vote on this item then, please. All those in favour? All those against, please? Abstentions? Thank you, that has been noted. That is carried though. Thank you very much. Thank you. Item 10, Children Culture Scrutiny Committee Work Programme. This item is on pages 169 to 176 of the agenda pack and sets out the work programme of the Children and Culture Scrutiny Committee. The actions required by the committee are to review and agree the committee's work programme as set out in this report, and to highlight for discussion any additional scrutiny activity which could be considered for conclusion in the work programme. The report will be presented by Tracy Johnson, Senior Scrutiny Officer. Over to you, Tracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I have no changes to report to the work programme. It is as published. Our committee's next meeting is on the 17th of July. We currently have 4 items listed. These are the performance of the library service contract with GLL for Year 10, alongside an update on the new library service contract which came into place from April. The Q4 service level performance reporting against the performance framework for 25-26. In addition, as a pre-decision scrutiny item, there will be the Scrutiny Committee Performance Framework for 26-27. So these will be the measures that will fall under the Children's and Culture Scrutiny Committee for their consideration going forward. And that is prior to a decision by the Executive Council of Children's Services between the 23rd of July and the 4th of August. And the last current item is the Young Carers Scrutiny Review Action Plan. And this is a final evaluation of how the recommendations from that review have been implemented. The committee received a last update on this in October last year, so this is just the final wrap-up in terms of how that's been going ahead and introduced into the system. I'm happy to take any suggestions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Tracy. Are there any questions on that agenda, on that item? No? Okay, thank you. So I propose that we approve the planned work programme subject to the consideration of any items highlighted in today's discussion. Can we please raise your hands if you agree? Thank you. I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much. That's agreed. Item 11, Attendance in school, elective home education and children missing education annual report 24-25. The report is on pages 177 to 200, sets out the 2024-25 annual report for attendance in schools, elective home education and children missing education is for information only. The action required is to note the content of the annual report for 24-25. Should you have any questions on the annual report, please contact officers following today's meeting. Thank you. Who's doing that report? Okay, that was just for information. Thank you. So that ends our meeting today. Thank you very much, everyone, for your input. It's been a long meeting, but thank you. Well done. Thank you all.